Celtics player Chris Herren of the Herren Project. And we'll close the show after all that serious conversation by metaphorically touching grass, the green grass that grows in your yard. How do you unplug and enjoy your embodied life? Unplugging, touching grass, and you. That's all I had on BPR Live from the Boston Public Library.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Corva Coleman. The Labor Department has released April's report on consumer prices. The war with Iran has pushed inflation to its highest level in 3 years. Last month, consumer prices were up 3.8% compared to what they were a year ago. Consumers paid more for energy because the Strait of Hormuz remains closed. The news about consumer prices comes as the Pentagon releases a new estimate for how much the war in Iran has cost so far. It's at least $29 billion. That's up $4 billion from the last estimate 2 weeks ago. And as the war against Iran continues, President Trump will depart for China this afternoon on a state visit. As NPR's Tamara Keith reports, trade is on the agenda.
The White House says President Trump intends to deliver more good deals on behalf of the country to rebalance trade with China. There is currently a trade truce between the U.S. and China after an all-out trade war last year. Melanie Hart is the senior director of the Global China Hub at the Atlantic Council.
The U.S. wants big purchase announcements, more access to China's rare earths, progress on fentanyl, and made-for-TV diplomatic spectacle. China's going to deliver on the spectacle. China can do spectacle better than anybody. They will also deliver on the purchases.
There will be bilateral meetings, a welcome ceremony, and a banquet. Tamara Keith, NPR News.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's government is expected to collapse next week. One of his religious coalition partners is calling to dissolve the Israeli parliament. According to Israeli media reports, this came after Netanyahu would not advance legislation to exempt ultra-Orthodox Israelis from the military. Ukraine says Russia has resumed its attacks on Ukrainian cities after a tenuous 3-day truce expired, one that President Trump said that he brokered. NPR's Joanna Kakissis has more from Kyiv.
Ukraine's foreign minister Andrea Sybiha shared on social media that Kyiv had proposed extending the ceasefire. Instead, Sybiha wrote, Moscow chose to attack a kindergarten and civilian infrastructure. President Volodymyr Zelensky added that Ukrainian forces shot down hundreds of attack drones around the country and recorded more than 80 aerial bombs and airstrikes on the front line. He said Ukraine would respond to these attacks and urged allies to enforce sanctions against Russia. Each side was supposed to exchange 1,000 prisoners over the weekend, but negotiations continue. Zelensky says the U.S. remains engaged as a mediator in this prisoner swap. Joanna Kakissis, NPR News, Kyiv.
You're listening to NPR News from Washington.
Okay, today is the second and last day of our spring pledge, and I wanted to start by apologizing. We have been buried in complaints from a lot of you for cutting away right before pledge, and many of you have missed the last couple of minutes of our interviews. After tomorrow, that will never happen again, and on behalf of Marjorie, me, and everybody on the show, our apologies for it happening at all.
Yeah, thank you, Jim, for that. 888-897-9424 is the number for our pledges. gbhnews.org is the website where you can give very securely. This is the next to last day of our spring pledges. As I always say, we have these pledge drives because otherwise we would have commercials, which would be really horrible. And we are particularly dependent upon the generosity of people who are listening because the federal government has taken away all our funding. So here's what we had today for an enticement. This is a great one.
This is a great one.
It is a $10 a month subscription to The Atlantic. And you may know that a lot of reporters who've lost jobs, places like the Washington Post and other places, they've gone to The Atlantic. They're doing all this breaking news. Jeffrey Goldberg, who's the editor there, he broke that Signalgate story about Pete Hegseth sharing information over an unsecured network about military operations.
And that woman broke last week the story about Patel being so drunk and passed out in his room that they almost needed like a log to break down the door to wake him up.
The Navy SEALs come in. So anyway, that is from The Atlantic. That is our enticement for today. $10 a month. month, an annual subscription. 888-897-9424, gbhnews.org is where you can give, and we really appreciate anybody who can take the time to give, especially if you've never given before. 888-897-9424, gbhnews.org.
Can we also say it's one of the great publications in America?
It is great.
I mean, it really is
it's
spectacular.
great.
Our own Juliette Kayyem. A couple of
That's
days
right,
ago,
Juliette
Tom
Kayyem.
Nichols was here.
That's right.
Etc. So go do it.
Listening to BPR and GBH and NEPM. Jim Browdy and Marjorie Egan, thank you very much. The Attorney General is here. You're probably clapping for her. Streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. That's right. We want to divide it up among the three
Okay,
of us,
Marjorie,
okay?
as you were saying, yes?
Brian Shortsleeve, who is the Republican candidate for governor, he joins us here at the library tomorrow. The mayor of Boston, Michelle Wu, will be here May 27th. Good morning, Jim, and Attorney General.
And let me just say, Mike Minogue, who's the other Republican running for the nomination for governor, to run against Governor Healy, we have reached out to, communicated. We're having a bit of an issue, but we're working on that as well. Right now, as Marjorie said, Attorney General Andrea Joy Campbell is here at the library taking our questions and yours for May's Ask the AG. You can call her or text her at 877-301-8970, or you can go to Juan Jose or Zoe, our two colleagues right there. And if you have a question that isn't totally ridiculous, there's a very good chance you got to ask it face to face. Hello, Attorney General. How are you?
I'm doing great.
You're texting during the show. You don't want people texting
No,
during school.
So first of all, well, I'm not in school.
Oh, that is
Not in
correct.
school.
I was just giving my team members hugs and giving them love.
Well, thank you for being here. We're good to see you.
Oh,
Glad to see you.
delighted to be here. Thank you. Thanks for having me as always, and thank you to everyone who's here in the audience.
So, Attorney General, two big news stories. The first, of course, is mifepristone. The Supreme Court has now extended till Thursday the fate of using mifepristone in telehealth medicine with abortions. Tell us where we're at and what your office is doing.
So we have been following this for some time as we look to expand access to reproductive health care, not just in Massachusetts, but across the country. And obviously, we are a leader because of our healthcare ecosystem in helping other states expand access to. And so the recent Fifth Circuit decision that would frankly suggest that mifepristone is somehow unsafe and requiring an in-person requirement to administer it, we are pushing back on along with other AGs across the country. So we led an amicus brief in support of that. Immediately after we filed that with the Supreme Court, they stayed it to sort of keep the status quo so people can still access this critical medication when necessary. The court then stayed it till Thursday, so we'll wait and see what the decision will be on Thursday and then report, obviously, to the public.
What happens, I know you don't like to discuss what happens if your side loses, but if your side loses, what happens to access to the drug in Massachusetts?
Well, I mean, one thing I will say here in Massachusetts is we're always looking at ways in which to have a legislative solution, possibly to continue access. There is also another medication that is available if we sort of get the worst case scenario, so folks can continue to access abortion care, reproductive health care. But I am hopeful and that the Supreme Court gets this right. We weren't the only ones to file an amicus to talk about how this would disrupt years of healthcare coverage that has been deemed safe for some time, including by the FDA. There were numerous amicus filed in this case, so I'm confident, but we'll see.
And one more thing, pretty shocking, right in the middle of the day, a little bit after 1 o'clock in the afternoon, on the River Street Bridge on Memorial Drive. Jim was at Trader Joe's. We almost lost him there. Anyway, this gunman just started shooting at cars and people. 2 people, life-threatening injuries. I don't know with the Attorney General's office if you have any involvement in that, but you are a law enforcement person.
Absolutely. We have a crim bureau, and I have a state police division within my office that I oversee, and the state police mobilize along with local law enforcement and other first responders. So kudos to our first responders, of course. But I remain in touch with DA Ryan. This is right now in her jurisdiction as the local district attorney for that area. I think folks saw her obviously give a press conference yesterday. I think what is really tragic and sad is I was in communication with DA Ryan before this about something totally different. And the fact that we were sort of ending our evening talking about something so horrific, so scary, so traumatic, was really heartbreaking, to say the least. And so obviously, as you all know, I'm a praying woman. I will pray for all those involved, including, of course, these victims, and support the DA in any way we can.
And what is the status of the shooter? At this point, do we know?
I don't know fully because it's within her jurisdiction,
Okay.
but obviously she will do her best to hold him accountable for those egregious and horrific acts that are, of course, on full display on social media and other videos, too. And we'll continue our work of not only supporting the district attorneys, all of them, as we do across the Commonwealth in law enforcement and criminal matters, but then even our work around guns and gun enforcement. You know, we have a gun violence prevention unit we established under my leadership. We are doing a lot to protect our gun laws here in Massachusetts. And even mental health, that has come up quite a bit in various conversations as people's reaction to what they saw yesterday. So our federal work, our state work to just expand access to mental health services too. And then, of course, like everyone else, we'll continue to learn more as things unfold.
The number is 877-301-8097 if you want to call or text to communicate with the Attorney General. Just a couple more things. We can go back to the Supreme Court. It's been a pretty active week or two. They not only gut the Voting Rights Act, what's left of the Voting Rights Act, and then ensure that they move as quickly as possible in violation of their own traditional rules about implementation dates so that districts can be changed in allegedly timely fashion. Then the Virginia Supreme Court, by 4-3, undoes a voter-approved redistricting thing there. My question is, on the latter, the Democrats in Virginia, who are obviously on the losing side, have appealed to the Supreme Court. A lot of legal experts, even those who are sympathetic to the Democrats' cause, say there's no real basis, there's no federal issue for the Supreme Court to consider the Virginia case. Do you agree with that?
Well, we're continuing to follow it. I think what the Supreme, even taking a step back, I actually appreciate you raising the issue because a lot of folks have not been as in the weeds because they look at Massachusetts as being obviously a little different. And I've been stressing that just even with some historical context here, right, many folks were excluded from accessing the ballot, including black folks in this country. Many folks don't even know that history, sadly. And then you have, obviously, the Constitution that is amended, and then barriers still erected to prevent black folks, for example, from participating in our voting system. Poll, taxes, literacy tests, violence. And then fast forward, what are the solutions? You have the 14th Amendment, then you have the Voting Rights Act to rectify that history and make sure that communities of color not only can access the ballot, but can also even run for office, right? And so anywhere there's a majority-minority district, that's under threat based on what the Supreme Court just did. And we have some of those here in Massachusetts, so people don't think it's relevant. It is. I actually started my legal career in such a district when I was on the city council in Boston, representing largely Dorchester, Mattapan, J.P. Rosendale, District 4. And so it is now going to be extremely difficult, based on the Supreme Court's rationale in the gutting of another section of the Voting Rights Act, to defend these districts. And so this is just, for me, an opportunity to educate folks, to continue to work across, state lines on these issues, which we are doing. We're supporting other states where it's more pressing, but much more challenging. And I think Justice Kagan got it right. She didn't mince her words in her dissent, that this is certainly a setback for the participation of communities of color. And if you don't know gerrymandering, communities of color or any community, they come together to form community. In that connection and community, you create power. You create power. What kind of power? All types of power, social power, political power. So if you can just take a district and community and cut it up for political purposes, that diminishes the political power of a community. The Supreme Court essentially is allowing that now, and that's very disappointing and disheartening, to say the least.
One last thing. When we discussed the voting rights case and the Virginia case on the air when they happened, more than a bunch of people texted and said things like, how fair is it that we're in a state that where 30+% voted for Donald Trump, and every single one of our congresspeople 100% are Democrats. Why aren't 30% of the districts, or whatever the number that Trump got in Massachusetts, drawn in such a way so that people who have his point of view have an opportunity to elect somebody who shares their perspective?
I would just say I think districts should be drawn fairly. What I mean by that is, so take Dorchester, Mattapan, where I represented. You have a community of folks. You draw almost like a circle around it, right? Instead, what we're seeing is, and you can see some of these maps, there are these crooked lines or whatever else to cut up districts, not for the purpose or the benefit of those communities, but for the detriment of those communities, to split up that power, that political power because of the connection community for partisan and political purposes. That's illegal on the Democratic and Republican side. That's what the Voting Rights Act sort of stood for.
No, it's not illegal. Partisan gerrymandering can be extreme. The Supreme Court has said it is perfectly legal.
So what I mean by just the cutting up of this for political purposes, diminishing that political power, at one point was illegal.
Yeah.
Now the Supreme Court has shifted that. And so I think for me, I actually, instead of remaining in a posture of disappointment with this decision, and even the court's description as if things on the ground have changed dramatically in terms of people of color participating, it's almost like, no, that is not the case. I am honored to be the Attorney General of this state. I'm also mindful I'm the first one of color to win statewide office in Massachusetts. Clearly, we have more work to do to ensure our political offices represent the communities we serve. So what I'm actually focused on now that I'm even in the re-election year, is people voting. Instead, what I remain disappointed by even more so is the lack of civic engagement, the lack of people voting. And I think we can do better across the country. We can certainly do better in Massachusetts. And I just hope that more people become more civically involved and more people vote.
877-301-8970.
Daniel from Somerville, thank you for calling. You're on with the Attorney General.
Hi, Daniel.
Hi, thank you. So I noticed
Daniel?
Yes, can you hear me?
Can you hear
Yes,
him?
I can. Thank you, Daniel.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Hello?
Yep.
Okay. So I saw the story about the guy in Marblehead who spoke up at the town meeting and basically said the emperor has no clothes and that the town was giving the authority to a golf course that has no plans to ever build housing.
This is about the MBTA Communities Act. And by the way, Daniel, before you do your question, we have sound from that guy just so everybody will know what you're talking about. His name is David Modica.
You should play the whole video.
Oh, well,
great.
We only have time for it right here unless you want to give up your time. Here's just a bit of what's become a viral clip of this David Modica at the Marblehead town meeting. Here he is.
So, but like when we're preserving like the character of Marblehead, it's like we're selfish. We're doing a bad thing. Like we're not doing any housing.
Is that a question?
Yeah, kind of. Like, are we kind of being pricks?
Beautifully put. Daniel, continue.
So when I was reading the coverage of it, I saw that the town had sought and gotten approval from the AG's office that this change in zoning would conform to the law, even though everyone
No, not our
acknowledged
office.
it. Oh, okay. Well, I'm wondering, how is this legal, and how is a city like Somerville, which has 5 times the density of a city like Marblehead, carrying all the burden? And
We got it.
how are they getting away with it?
Let's let the
How is
Attorney General
Marblehead
respond.
getting away with it? I think.
Yeah,
is
first
what
of all,
he's-
Daniel, thank you for your question, and I appreciate that you're from Somerville, because we were in Somerville for a lot of the housing work under even the previous mayor, and I know obviously the new mayor, given compliance with MBTA communities and also the other work you and Somerville are doing to bring about more housing. And I want to lift up the fact that the majority of communities, over 160 municipalities in Massachusetts, who are not getting the credit, but they should, Daniel, to your point, get the credit, have passed compliant zoning, and most of those plans, or many of those plans, are generating housing, thousands of units of new housing. And so my job, as you know, is to enforce the MBTA communities law. We'll continue to do that. In the context of Marblehead, first of all, David, I'm happy to give my time to play the entire video by David because it was that good. Especially in the beginning when he says, is this a golf course? And the guy says, well, yeah, when I drive by, it's a golf course. And he goes, well, you don't got to be cute. I was like, David, this is going to be a great video. And it just keeps getting better and better. But to his point, and to your point, Daniel, we didn't approve it. So this is still in process. And what I mean by that is, it's not us where the initial zoning plans for pre-approval go to. This is EOHLC, so the Executive Office of Housing and Livable Communities, which is a state agency that we work closely with, but they're a separate agency. This still has to be approved by them, so this is still under review by them. We actually have an active lawsuit against Marblehead. That's on hold right now because of the whole meeting process. So we're following this, and we will determine post EOHLC's review if there's any legal recourse we can take. But to your point, Daniel, we recognize there's a housing crisis. This is why we know the MBTA Communities Law is one tool to help, and why we're going to keep enforcing it in all the municipalities that benefit from the public good called the T to bring about more housing.
Daniel, thanks for calling. How many communities are in non-compliance, Attorney General?
I have to get you the, I'll
Roughly,
follow up
do you
before
know?
the.
Okay, well, let us know when you
It's
know.
over. Yes, I will.
Okay, fine.
I mean, they're pulling
I don't want to
fast.
say it wrong because then I'll have
Fine.
a community saying, how dare you put us
Got
in
it.
the non-compliance
Yeah,
category.
and there's a sense that some are pulling fast ones to get out of compliance is what's going on
And we're
here.
following that, and I
Yep.
think, and frankly, yes, there's one video, David, went viral, and who says zoning videos can't go viral? But it also speaks to, there are a
never
lot
know.
of people like David who volunteered their time to go to all of these local hearings to voice their support. And of course, we don't have a lot of videos, but there are a lot of folks who did that. And so I just applaud the civic engagement at the local level when it comes to housing policies.
Let's go to Brian in New Bedford. Thank you for calling, Brian.
Hello, Brian.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning.
You know, we have on Dartmouth Street in Dartmouth, Massachusetts, we had one apartment building for elderly, 65 and older, and then about 4 blocks down, another gigantic apartment building is going up in this town. And I don't understand what the
I
law
can hear,
is
Yeah.
on.
you just
Hold
broke
on.
up for me a little
The
bit.
Attorney General's having trouble. Is it us or is
Brian, we're going to put you on hold for a second. Hope the connection's better. We'll take a call and then come right
I'm
back
not sure
to you.
because I heard him. I
So
don't know
don't
if it's
hang
the
up.
Attorney General's headset.
I don't know. We'll check on it.
Okay.
But in the meantime, let's try David in Oxford. You're on with
And we'll come back
AG
to Brian.
Andrea
Okay.
Joy Campbell. Hi.
Hey, hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Attorney General, thank you for being on. I was wondering about the status of the report that your office has been working on for several years about the clergy abuse from the Catholic Church. In Uxbridge, we were there. I know of at least 2 victims of this sort of serial abuse by local clergy, and they were interviewed several years ago. And there's nothing that's come out yet. And could you give us an update on the status of that report?
Thank you for the question, David.
Thank
We
you.
appreciate it.
And I appreciate you lifting this up. And obviously, it is tragic anytime anyone experiences clergy abuse or any type of abuse. And I got to give credit to even Rep. Lon, who recently had his op-ed out, really sharing his story, and that vulnerability, I think, has prompted others to do the same, including legislation we've been working on the statute of limitations related to these types of cases and expanding and extending that. I can't say any more about the report because, as I said before, it's actually still in the hands of a judge who gets very upset when you speak out of turn, when it is going through a judicial process. But I promise you, David, and others who have reached out to us, as soon as I can share the release of that report, the status of it, et cetera, with a sign-off from the judge involved in this case, I will do so. But it's still in a judicial process, but more to come on that.
David, thanks. Let's try Brian again. We're told the headset for
Okay,
the
thank
Attorney
you.
General. Hi. Start from the beginning, if you don't mind, Brian, please.
Thank you, Brian.
Not at all. Okay, so on Dartmouth Street in Dartmouth, which I travel down Dartmouth Street a lot, there's one apartment building there. It's a 55 and older apartment building, and I think the laws are affecting these. And about 4 blocks down, a gigantic apartment building was just built there also. I think the traffic is going to be unbelievable. It's not not in my backyard issue. It's about, you know, how does this affect the residents, the sewer issues. Also, these apartments are not cheap. There's another one going up, I think, on Hathaway Road in New Bedford that's just going to cause such a snare as far as traffic. It's unbelievable. I mean, it seems like we don't have a choice of where these things go. I don't understand what's happening. it's like people don't have common sense on where to build these apartment buildings.
So what's
that
your
we
question,
need.
Brian? What's the question for the AG?
How are the laws affecting, the local people that we don't have a choice of where these, that's what I'm being told by the zoning.
Got it.
Got
Attorney
it.
General.
So I have less of an involvement as Attorney General in the local zoning compliances and around specific development projects. But if you allow me, Brian, just to put on my former city council hat, I had a direct role when I was on the city council in zoning conversations because I represented a district. Anytime there was a new development, I, as a local elected official, was tasked with engaging my constituents who lived in my district and then bringing to the zoning board either letters of support, letters of opposition, or letters of just non-opposition, somewhere in the middle, depending on what I heard from community. So this is the task of local elected officials, to work with community on various projects, including the concerns you have. Sometimes some development didn't move forward quickly, but it ultimately did once parking concerns were figured out or other infrastructure concerns were figured out, or even community that mobilized to push for greater affordable price points for housing. Then, a developer or the proponent would change the design or the proposal, and then we would go before the zoning board in support. So this is a local issue. Where my job comes in now as Attorney General is obviously enforcing some of our state laws that are applicable depending on what the issue is. So I hear your frustration, Brian, loud and clear. This is where local elected officials play a significant role.
Brian, good luck to you. Can we spend a minute on something that we've talked to you a lot about in the past? You proposed a bell-to-bell cell phone ban in schools. My understanding is it's passed the Senate. I would like your thoughts about what the prospects are. And my understanding is, we spoke to the governor about this whenever she was here a week or so ago, the House has amended that ban to include a social media ban for people under 14, and the governor has a suggestion, well, maybe in addition to that, I think it's 14 to 16, there'd be a total number of hours combined crossing different platforms. And we asked her, how do you enforce this without violating the civil liberties of people? Because there's been a lot of criticism of this legislation, not the intent, but the effectuation of the age demonstration thing. Her response was, the Attorney General is going to do it. So how are you going to do it?
You got a lot going on.
And are you convinced that you can do it in a way that doesn't cause civil liberty problems for not just young people, but other people who are over 16?
Yes, we can get this done. And why? I actually think this is, in addition to housing affordability, everything being too expensive, tech companies and accountability for them in the context of our youth and kids is the issue of the day. As I always say, I'm not just an AG, I'm a mom of 2 boys. And right now, even as we've been engaging young people through a youth tour, the thing we hear about the most is, yes, there is a benefit to social media platforms. We hear that from young people, but there's also significant harm platforms are causing our kids, especially when it comes to mental health, depression, anxiety, et cetera. And we're not going after their First Amendment rights. We have 2 lawsuits against TikTok and Meta. We have won the initial battle where they try to have us dismiss it, but we know lawsuits take too long to hold them accountable, so we filed the Study Act. The Study Act had different provisions, but the biggest points were to ban cell phones in school during the school day, which we know educators support, even young people support, because I was in Ipswich, where young people first, we weren't really in favor, but now we're sitting at lunch socializing. Ban cell phones, but why is that important? Because you have an addictive device with addictive platforms. So in the same legislation, the Study Act that I filed, it was also to hold tech companies accountable, age verification, other ways they said they're going to make their platform safe, but to hold them to that, because sometimes age verification doesn't work. Since then, I have been delighted because the Senate has come with their proposal, including the cell phone ban. The governor has hers, which complements. The House has theirs. So you have now all of these proposals, all designed to protect our young people, their mental health, and to hold tech companies accountable, and at the same time to create school environments that are distraction-free and easier for kids to learn, so they're more connected and socially, so teachers don't have to be police and phone cops, and most importantly, even bullying and harassment, as we see an uptick, to allow for those complaints to go down. So I'm confident that even as we engage the ACLU and other groups that have feedback, we will take all of that feedback and ultimately get done legislation that will hold tech companies accountable and also ban cell phones in schools across the Commonwealth. So you don't just have some school districts like Ipswich High School, where I recently was, with this distraction-free learning environment, but other school districts trying to figure it out.
So you support the social media ban proposed by the House and the across up to 14 and the cross-platform ban or limit that the governor is proposing. You support them both. One last question. I don't even know if you didn't buy a Trump gold phone with a $100 deposit by any chance, did you?
I'm sorry, what?
Exactly. 590,000. This is true. We both thought this was a joke. 590,000 people applied.
First of all, I have very limited money in that. So we got kids, we got all the things. So.
590,000 people.
We're mindful, Jim, of how we spend our dollars.
I understand
God
that.
bless my husband and his budgeting skills.
As I was saying, 590,000 people.
Shout out to you, babe.
Have put down a $100 deposit on a Trump gold phone. That's $59 million. Here's what the website that offered them says. The deposit, quote, does not guarantee that a device will be produced or made available for purchase, meaning a typical Trump grifting situation. This is a serious question. 590,000 people are out $100. I assume.
I'm sorry. They saw that and they still.
They gave on exactly. They gave deposit $100, and the question is, if there are some of those people listening or in Massachusetts who put down the $100 deposit are now learning that there's never going to be a phone,
they can call us.
They could call you. That's a
Well, actually, this is a great point. When we talk about the federal accountability work we do, that it's not personal. Again, if it was a Democratic president or a Republican and they were harming and trying to take billions of dollars from Massachusetts for health care in our schools, mental health, we would fight for that, or even our opioid work, et cetera. Here, we're doing consumer protection. So if people feel like they're being defrauded, they should absolutely call our office. We are putting money back into the pockets of people who are defrauded. So 617-727-8400. Anyone who's felt like they've been scammed. And I would just say also, because I was just at an elder conference on this point, there is often some shame attached to this where people feel like, I can't believe I was fooled because I'm just so smart, whatever it is. The techniques are sophisticated, so anyone should call our office, and we hope to be helpful.
Before we take a break, we'll take a break at the bottom of the hour. You have an opponent out of the Republican convention, Mike Walsh. Do you have anything to comment on his candidacy?
No, I can only comment on mine. I love my job. Since I took this office, I said to the people of Massachusetts, I would use the tools of the office with a sense of urgency to help them deal with consumer protection issues, help them break generational cycles of poverty, build wealth, and most importantly, enforce our laws. And I've been doing that. And I am out there hoping to earn their support again and to continue to speak on my record of putting millions of dollars back into the pockets of workers, of real consumers, and, of course, holding the Trump administration accountable to protect Massachusetts.
Nothing to say about Mike Walsh at all.
Why?
Well, because he's your opponent. He'll be running.
Good for him. He'll be here. Invite him to say what he wants about him. I will just say I want to thank people who helped me get the signatures recently to be able to appear on the ballot, people who mobilized, who volunteered. I am grateful. And when I do this work, it's not even about the other person. He can speak to his own record. It's not personal. My job is to get out there and speak to mine.
Do you know anything about him?
I know very little. I know he files a lot of lawsuits, and that's the extent.
Okay. Got to take a break.
We're taking a quick break, and we're going to be right back. We're talking to the Attorney General of the Commonwealth. She's going to be with us to the top of the hour, actually till 12:06.
12:06.
Past the top of the hour.
Yes, indeed.
You're listening to BPR and GBH and NEPM. We're broadcasting live from the Boston Public Library and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
Sometimes the story you need to hear isn't the one dominating the news. I'm Edgar B. Herwick III, host of the Curiosity Desk. Our mission? To be your guide through it all. From how does it work to how did we get here? From compound interest to, well, compounds, like molecules and stuff. We'll follow our curiosity wherever it leads. Join us on the journey, weekdays at 1 here on GBH 89.7.
Support for GBH comes from you.
And M&M Skylights. Servicing Massachusetts and New Hampshire, their team is part of the Velux Skylight Specialist Network and is committed to helping improve the air quality in homes or businesses. Consultations and more information at mmskylights.com. And the Cape Cod Foundation, committed to building resources to support community life on Cape Cod, including environmental conservation, arts and culture, and community development. Learn more at capecodfoundation.org. And the University of Massachusetts Amherst. UMass, the state's flagship public research university, empowers students to be the future in the pursuit of progress for Massachusetts and beyond. More at umass.edu.
Find that Friday feeling early at GBH Music's Jazz Night, featuring saxophonist Ken Fields with his RSE Trio. Thursday at 5:30 at the Boston Public Library. Get a free ticket at wgbh.org/events.
Welcome back to BPR and GBH and NEPM. Marjorie Egan, Jim Browdy, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. We're live at the library with Attorney General Andrea Joy Campbell. She'll be with us till 12:06. Take your questions and ours. Call or text her at 877-301-8970, or you can find Zoe or Juan Jose over there and ask question directly face-to-face.
And it was 9.
Oh, 9 communities are
Right
in
now,
non-compliance.
Which we have lawsuits against, but there's some other towns, but they have later deadlines, but 9.
Okay, thank you.
So, Attorney General, you were just talking about bullying in terms of kids using phones in school. Our colleague Chris Burrell has done some great reporting about this pattern that he's found, some great investigative reporting he's done about kids whose parents repeatedly reported the bullying to the schools. In one case, he focused on a 14-year-old boy in puberty, a gay kid who eventually took his own life. We talked about this in the context of a great golfer at Masconomet Regional High School, a young woman who apparently was beating the boys too often, and they didn't like that, so she was subjected to terrible sexual threats. I mean, it goes on and on and on. The pattern is similar, where parents keep calling and the schools do nothing. So the bottom line in terms of his reporting is that these anti-bullying laws, which we have, don't really have any teeth to them to make the schools accountable. And he asked in his stories and to us, is there anything you can do about this problem, especially since the schools seem to be non-compliant?
So I talked to him at the NAN Project, which was really appropriate, which was an organization started by a mother and her son after their sister committed suicide, and it's a group of young people from all across the state who do peer-to-peer support around mental health, and to hopefully get young people not to get to that place where they feel as though they have to take their life. And we talked specifically about Jason, the puberty case, and how tragic it is.
Awful.
It's an understatement. It's heart-wrenching when you think about what the parents are going through, even his friends and colleagues. So we do have laws, of course, in Massachusetts to his reporting that require schools to have procedures in place to respond to all complaints of harassment, bullying. Sometimes our office, especially through our Children's Justice Unit, is pulled in to help school districts develop policies on how to actually respond. We do trainings with school districts, and sometimes in the sports context across the Commonwealth. And in addition to that, we get complaints sometimes directly to our office from people who are being bullied from families, and we follow up and open investigations. If anything, I said, listening to some of his reporting, this is an opportunity to think about how we do a better job of requiring and doing more training across the Commonwealth to ensure every school district has not only the training they need, but all the procedures that are in place, the same standard of responding to these allegations, because it is district by district. And so similar to even the cell phone ban, how can we make sure that it is consistent? And I think there's a role for our office to play along with our education agencies and the governor and the legislature. So I think there's some follow-up that we can be doing, and we will do that.
Is there any liability for these schools if they repeatedly ignore the complaints from the families?
I want to be careful, because It depends, case by case. We're not in the weeds on every single case. One of the most horrific since I've been Attorney General, outside of hearing some of the reporting from Chris on young people taking their lives because of patterns of bullying and harassment prior to, it was even the Southwick incident, right, where fellow students used a social media platform to create a mock slave auction, where they then sought to not only auction off their classmate, but to do it under this mock slave auction. In that school district, we work closely with, along with the NAACP and others, to improve their policies, which were not great at the time, and training and other ways in which to respond and then hold people accountable. So we can do more of that. We want more resources to be able to do that, and I am absolutely ready to engage all the stakeholders necessary to ensure that response can happen everywhere.
You know, and my apologies if Marjorie asked this, and feel free to say I already answered. I was just reading the text briefly. Is the law, I think it's 2010, is the law strong enough, meaning when there is non-compliance or just no serious effort on a local level?
I don't think there's any liability.
There doesn't. Well, it's not just liability. Is there an enforcement mechanism in the law that allows you or DESE or the educational infrastructure to come down on them? Does the law need to be strengthened?
This is what we're evaluating, because I want to be careful, even before it says strengthen the law, when we have laws on the books that actually already say you are required as a school district to have procedures in place to investigate and respond appropriately to all allegations of bullying and harassment. So if anything, it says we have to come together as a Commonwealth, including our education agencies, the governor, the legislature, to make sure that every single school district actually has all of this in place, procedures, policies, and to respond, and also even to work with local school committee members, local parents, local students to ensure that. So this is an opportunity to do that deeper analysis, to Chris's point, and assessment across the board. And if we think, based on what we find, that we need to expand the law, then we should have that conversation too.
We're going to take another call, but there's somebody who's got a question about our favorite topic. If she approaches the mic, she can ask the first question. We'll get to you in just 1 second. Hang out there. Ann in Westminster, you're on with the Attorney General. Welcome.
Ann?
Hi, Ann.
Yes.
Ann's on the phone.
Yes,
Ann's on the phone, then we'll take April. Hi, Ann.
Yes, thank you.
Sure.
And thank you, Attorney General Campbell. I was asking, what do you know about the Westminster PFAS crisis, and will you support stronger financial assurance requirements so companies responsible for the PFAS contamination secure cleanup?
We have a horrible connection.
Okay, was it just me?
But I actually no, it's not just you. But
Westminster.
Ann, I know what you're talking about. She's asking about the PFAS contamination issue in Westminster and saying whether or not there's liability for the companies, what is needed for you to get involved. Are you familiar with the situation?
So, Ann, if you want to stay on, because we can hear her, please
Okay.
stay on. My team is here. So connect with Lauren Martin or Cindy. So stay on specifically on this. And on PFAS generally, we are absolutely involved in several lawsuits.
These are the
in terms
forever
of
chemicals.
Yep,
I'm
exactly.
sorry, I shouldn't have called them that. Yeah.
Whether it is a committee with the legislature, litigation that's ongoing, we are at the forefront of that. But Ann, stay on
don't hang up.
specifically on this.
We'll get your contact
And we'll
information.
follow up since you broke
and
up.
We'll give it to the Attorney General's office. April is at the mic at the library. April, welcome. You've got the Attorney General.
Yes.
Hi.
That's fine. Yes, hi. Thank you
Hi,
for
April.
taking my question and also statement because, 72% of Massachusetts voters voted for our state auditor, Diana, to audit the legislature. Unfortunately, the 72% were slapped in the face and said, sorry, your votes don't count. And it was just shut down by our state representatives. How, as our Attorney General, did you sit back and let that be allowed? And I know that, just last week, thankfully, the SJC was able to kind of push you a little bit forward to actually, instead of dodging all the calls and emails that Diana has been reaching out to you for, you have to now face this and actually give an answer.
Why don't we let her say what's going on in question one?
Thank you, April,
Appreciate it.
So, one, I would say a couple things. One, I don't think the voters' voice is discounted, because I'm one of those folks. I've been crystal clear from the beginning that I supported question one and I voted for it. And I did have some people who say, why would you say that? That wasn't helpful. The second piece is I've always believed that the legislature could be audited, but that there were constitutional limitations to that audit. Obviously, the auditor can audit, but my job is to enforce the Constitution. And for months, in a really long time, we were trying to settle upon what did you want to audit. The good thing about the court hearing on Friday, or I should say the hearing and then the order that came out on Friday of last week, is they made it crystal clear and they pushed the auditor in a loving way. They pushed us, they pushed her, to actually commit to an audit that only included 4 areas. And those 4 areas, she cannot go outside of that. Those are the very specifics we were looking for. The court just gave it to us. So I have a letter that will come from my office to the auditor, allowing her to proceed, to appoint an attorney, to then go into court with respect to those 4 things, and this will move forward. And so the court brought clarity there on those 4 things, and this will move forward. And so to your point, I agree with you. Let's get it done.
Okay, so if let me be clear. It sounds to me, unless I misunderstood, you just announced what your decision is going to be, which is you will allow the appointment of a special attorney general to represent her office should there be continued noncompliance by the legislature.
Absolutely. And why is this? Because the court forced some clarity and specifics that we had been seeking, which was this. These 4 things, auditor, you can proceed with those, but you have to keep your audit within those 4 things, which was not something she was willing to say to us initially. So we're going to move forward. That letter will be coming very soon to the auditor. We're going back and forth and running a conflict check at some point. If she chooses to use Shannon, we'll run a conflict check on that, and we will move forward.
So I have a couple of questions just for clarification.
No,
here.
we're moving forward.
If I can,
I'm joking, too.
I know you are. I know.
First of all, Ava, I don't know where she went. Thank you.
A couple of questions about this for a second here. You will not represent her. She will have the representative of her choice, the special attorney general. Is there any circumstance in which you'd end up representing the legislature against her special attorney general?
No, what would happen now is we would proceed, sagging all parties, meaning giving everyone a special assistant attorney general after you run conflicts. They then proceed back to the court on those 4 items.
Understood.
And then we're out of it. They have the attorneys that go forward. But the only reason we would be pulled back in, which is always a possibility, is if the court came to us and asked us our opinion on something, including the constitutionality of something else. And we would show up, obviously, if the court asked us.
Well, then, I think one more thing here, just for clarification. You said a second ago when you were summarizing what the court said, she can't go beyond those 4 things. That's not what the court said, and it's not what you said in your pleadings. She can't go beyond those 4 things now. In the future, correct me if I'm wrong, if the auditor says we want to audit X, which is not one of those 4 things, then the issue arises again. If she wants you to represent her, you have to do same deal.
Exactly, can go back.
So she's not precluded down the line from picking other subject matter to audit.
I will say this.
Is that correct?
I want to be careful here because right now we have 4 things, and the audit as defined by the court order is limited to those 4 things. If she wants to bring something up later, the court will have to play a role in that too, because it will depend. Is it constitutional?
Why would they have to play a role? I mean, by the way, I tortured myself and watched the whole oral argument, so I actually almost know what I'm talking about for a change.
God bless. But we will visit that when it comes.
It was pretty clear. Right, exactly.
Now,
wouldn't go right to the court. If she said, I want to audit X, and a new thing in a year, and it's not, and the legislature says no, the first thing, I assume, would be, will you represent me before it goes to the court, because you may decide to represent her.
And we will see. We don't know what that is. But I know this. On this order right now from Friday, and these 4 things that are specific, we'll move forward.
Okay, one last thing about ballot questions going forward. The income tax, the cut of the income tax from 5% to 4%. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think there's a case before the SJC saying the thing should be knocked out because the contention is in the summary that you are legally required to prepare, there was a mistake around its impact on capital gains. That's one. I know you disagree that the mistake is material, if I remember correctly. But since that case was filed, Shirley Young was with us the other day. She and John Chesto, right? Well, that's not the only thing. Administration and Finance has now concluded that there's an impact on S corporations, and there's potential elimination of the charitable deduction, which was state charitable deduction, passed not too long ago. It seems to me, as someone who used to do ballot questions for a living, if people are signing a petition and voting on a petition that, at least according to some, is wrong on the capital gains impact, wrong on the silent on the S corporation impact, and silent on charitable deduction impact, that the thing shouldn't be on the ballot to begin with. Am I wrong?
I'm going to wait to see what the court says. And
what's your position?
This is what I mean by it. We have been pleasantly surprised. For example, first we got a record number of ballot questions, over 40. We certified many of these ballot questions. The court, even in the stipends one, we certified it to proceed forward. The
legislative stipends.
And the court said after the Senate reached out, no, we're not doing that. So
you rescinded the certification.
So exactly, because the court said essentially this is not going to happen, right? And we don't want ballot questions proceeding to the voters where we know it will not actually be implemented because of the court's posture here, or implementation, or because they think it's unconstitutional, et cetera. So I'm waiting to hear. We stood up in court to defend many of our certifications, including on rent control and others. We stand by those. And now we're waiting on the court to decide if those ballot questions were indeed certified.
Well, what if the court says?
Legally?
What if the court says to you?
We don't know
if you
yet.
Agree, wait,
so
if the court says to you, if you agree that it affects charitable contributions, they could be wiped out, and if you agree there's an impact on small, corporations for small things, should this appropriately be on the ballot? You won't answer the question?
I'm not going to say anything until we get the decisions from the court on all of those ballot questions, because I will tell you, I was surprised by their analysis, even the stipend one. And then we had to proceed accordingly with the Secretary of State. And I will say the thing that irritates me the most, that I don't really think has really hit home to voters who vote on ballot questions, when we go through the certification process, and this is a stupid process founded by some other people, is we don't actually have to go through a constitutional analysis. We actually certify ballot questions here in Massachusetts to go to voters, never having to ask the question if this is constitutional or not. And I think that process needs to be revamped and shifted and changed.
Just whether it complies with Article 48, which is the state's constitution.
Because literally people could be voting on something.
Amounts of time.
And also people could be voting on something that actually is unconstitutional. Then it comes back after they voted for it, and it's unconstitutional. So that process needs to be revamped.
Hannah in Lexington, thank you for calling. You're on with the Attorney General.
Hi, Hannah.
Hannah.
Hi, thank you so much. My question is about a multi-state consumer fraud situation affecting sports teams, including my son's soccer team. It's been documented in 4 states, and I'd really love your guidance. Our team lost about $450,000 on a trip with Go Play Sports, which is a Boston-based company that does travel sports trips where they take teams to the UK or other countries. They organize tournaments and travel around soccer. They canceled our trip, which was for 55 families, about a week before departure in April. We've since learned that there are 5 other teams across Massachusetts, New Jersey, Maine, and Texas that were all hit by the same pattern, and your office has confirmed they've at least received at least 25 complaints. They've told us that they're filing for Chapter 7 bankruptcy, but they haven't filed.
Okay.
They've also told the travel insurance carrier that they would be reimbursing families directly, but they haven't done it.
Okay.
They've sort of made comments that no one is going to sue them because on the per-family basis, it was only $3,500, so no one really, it's not a big deal. It is a big deal.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah.
And I'm just curious, how does your office consider when to formally go after a case like this, and what should the families across the multiple states be doing right now? Should we be working together, or what do you think?
Hannah, can you stay on, please? Because we're going to follow up with you directly on this. We have had some successes, even when companies file for bankruptcy, to get people back the money that was stolen from them. So stay on. We will follow up with you ASAP. My team is here with me, so please stay on, okay?
Hannah, don't go away. We'll take all your contact info.
Please. Here's another good consumer question. This is from John.
Is this similar to Hannah's?
No.
Oh, someone else. Okay.
But it's fear of getting ripped off, I think. John from West Roxbury. He said, we recently bought flooring, including insulation, from a retailer with several Massachusetts locations, doesn't name the retailer. We paid a deposit to book the job, and then as soon as the installation date was arranged, our credit card was charged for the whole balance of the purchase before the installation had even begun. Is that legal? I thought final payment wasn't allowed until the work had been performed.
It's a case-by-case basis. That depends. So I don't want to go into the weeds because it depends on whatever the engagement was, the contract was. But if John wants to stay in touch with us, John, if you could leave your contact, we will follow up, especially if you've paid for something and no work has started, for example, we can help you look into that.
We've got his number right
so
here.
We'll
if
get
you
it.
want to come write it down.
We'll get it, John, and follow up.
Thank you, John, for leaving your number. It makes it easier for everybody.
You know, Attorney General, this is hard to talk about, but you've been quite open, I think, and courageous talking about your twin brother who died in custody. And since we first met you, you've been open and candid about that. You have another brother who has a rape trial pending this week. How are you dealing with that?
I will say, I was just telling my team this, because I have the best team in the whole wide world. I'm very God-fearing. And I know I speak about that, and people may think it's sort of a surface-level thing. I don't start my day without reading my word. I don't start my day without prayer. And so even today, I was in the book of Job, reminded that though he slay me, I will trust in my God always. In this circumstance, as tragic as it is no exception. And that's all I can say. This is an ongoing judicial process. I have to respect it. Jury members are involved here. And this is where I have to become completely silent.
Do you
and
speak
let the
to him at
judicial
all?
process unfold.
Do you speak to him?
I can say nothing.
Okay. 877.
So thank you for that question. And anyone, I will say, to your point, I share my story openly. And I think as I engage more young people who have shame sometimes about sharing about loved ones who are incarcerated. My father was incarcerated. My mom died in a car accident going to visit my father who was in prison. All of my parents are deceased. All of my biological parents are deceased. And I have no shame in sharing that because I know there's power in it and being vulnerable. And I think it's important for young people to share that. And so I'll just leave it at that.
Fair enough.
Rama in the car, thank you for calling the Attorney General.
Hey there.
Rama?
Hi.
Rama.
Yes, hi. Thank you for taking my call. Yeah. Thank you for being vulnerable, Attorney General. Thanks for being on again every month.
Thank you for joining in.
Yeah, you're welcome. I have a question about, speaking of laws on the books that have no teeth. Texting while driving. I'm in a two-lane at a stoplight, and if I look around, I'll find just about everyone texting while driving, okay? That law came about on the books, I don't know, about 8 years ago. I contacted all my state reps, state senators, and everyone that would listen. That unless it's a DUI or an OUI, it will make no difference. Now, my prediction has come true. If you look around, and it's not just kids, it's not just teenagers, it's all of us, okay, myself included. If I knew it was a DUI, an OUI, and I got pulled over, but the state cops are too busy on their gadgets as well, as you all know. And I'm trying to get my state rep to propose it, if it comes to pass, that we modify that law with some strong teeth saying it's an OUI or a DUI or some similar type of penalty. Would you support that? Would it be constitutional? What are your thoughts on that, please?
I'd have to see it first, Rama. I don't disagree, though. It's a very tough law to enforce in that to your point, you see people, and then how do you have law enforcement get in the car? But I think that's also where people went to hands-free cell phones, right, as a way in which to help. But I think it's something we can always revisit when it comes to distraction-free.
You know,
Thank you, Rama.
You know, Attorney General, some people have been very upset with recent decisions by the Supreme Court. And as you know, a lot of rumors about Alioto and Clarence Thomas resigning, and then President Trump being able to put other people in the court. So for the next 40 years, we'd have the same group. Are you on board with expanding the Supreme Court? James Carville did a long rant. People may remember he used to work for Bill Clinton. Did a
I like how you said a rant.
Yeah, he did do it.
No, it was an F-bomb.
Yeah, it was an F-bomb rant. That got a lot of play because it was full of F-bombs. But in any case, he was talking about it. Many people have talked about the need to expand the court. What do you think?
I haven't taken a position. I'm following it, but I am equally, just like everyone else, disappointed with the politicization of the court in many of these institutions. Even I was lifting up Frank Bellotti earlier, who obviously was over 100 years old when he passed. He was former Attorney General here and considered to be a legend because he modernized the office of Attorney General here, and then everywhere else in the country followed, where we do not just criminal work, we do consumer protection, et cetera. And we do this work regardless of what letters by your name. We don't care what political affiliation you are. We do it with integrity, following the rule of law precedent. And you're seeing the court move away from that in ways that are, I think, are really blatant and disturbing. And also just detached from reality on the ground. Even in the voting rights case, to your point, Jim, earlier, and others, to suggest that things have changed dramatically and we don't need these laws to protect civil rights is absolutely absurd. So I know there's different proposals coming out around expanding the court, limits. I will say I do appreciate, at least in the political context, conversations around term limits. I do think if you're here too long, that could be an issue, frankly. So we'll see. It's not, I don't have a direct role there, but all I can say is from where I sit, disappointed in the politicization of that organization and that court.
Can we stay on that just for 1 second? Nancy Gertner, who's a regular guest here, former federal judge, and Larry Tribe, who everybody knows, professor emeritus at Harvard Law School. They were both on the Biden's presidential commission on the Supreme Court. And what they told us is they went into that proceeding supporting term limits and against expansion, and they came out in favor of expansion and against term limits.
Tell me
Not
why.
because they were against term limits, but because they're convinced that needs a constitutional amendment. And as you know, many times in American history, I think it's 9, but it's a lot of times, Congress has done what it has the power to do, expand the court. So what in between F-bombs, what Carville said in this thing is all that should matter in 2028, all that matters, a Democratic House, Democratic Senate, Democratic President, majority votes to expand to add 4 justices to the Supreme Court, President signs it, and then nominates 4 credible, unbiased, nonpartisan justices. Is that, it seems to me that having the support of leaders like you on state levels on something that's legal and doable, assuming they're all Democrats, and you
give our authority a lot more authority than we probably.
Well, you have bully pulpit, though. You do. Yeah.
And I will tell you, one of the first pieces of legislation I was most proud of that I actually thought we had a direct opportunity to not only weigh in, but to make a difference was the GI Bill. Mm-hmm. And one of my first pieces of legislative advocacy to Congress was looking at the GI Bill, where former vets who were still alive, black vets who served this country, who were denied GI benefits because of their race. And you had Congressman Clyburn and Moulton who came together for this. I got AGs from across the country, including Republican AGs, to join our efforts to push for the passage of this, which to me was a no-brainer. How can you look a veteran in the face who served this country, and they have proof that they were denied benefits of the GI Bill because of their race and not give them what they're due? That went nowhere. And so to my disappointment and deep disappointment. So we continue to advocate, to your point, and we will continue to. And I remain disappointed by the decisions we're getting out of the Supreme Court.
Attorney General, thank you so much for coming in here
Thank
today.
you all for having me. Everyone be blessed.
I was going to say, we don't have time to squeeze in another one, do we?
No.
No, we
Do
don't.
you have anything you want to say? You have a minute.
I will just say these are tough times, to say the least. I tell my team all the time, take care of your spiritual, mental, and physical health. And if you are a faith-driven person, this is the time to start praying for more and more people, seeing the humanity in everyone. That's what I would do.
I'm not faith-driven. What do I do?
You maybe just stand here and support and encouragement. and then I will just say, Joy is my middle name, so I just have to stand on that every day. So I'll give you a little bit of that.
Thank you.
You
I
can
accept
spread
that.
that
We're going
too.
to talk about lying in the grass later on. Maybe
But
Jen
it's an
should
honor
spend
and
more
privilege
time.
to be the Attorney General of the greatest state in the country. So thank you all and stay blessed.
Thank you so
very
much for your time. We'll see you
for
next
coming
month.
here. We have been speaking
Attorney
with
General.
Andrea Joy Campbell. She, of course, is the Attorney General of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. We very much appreciate her time. We say goodbye to those of you listening on NEPM. Make sure to tune into the fabulous 413 starting at 3 o'clock this afternoon. We're going to keep going here in Boston. Coming up next, after this quick break, we're going to have a conversation on addiction and recovery with 2 recovery experts. Chris Herren, great basketball player from my hometown of Fall River, and Woody Giessmann, the drummer, longtime for the Del Fuegos. I'm Marjorie Egan. He's Jim Browdy. This is BPR, GBH, and NEPM streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
Find that Friday feeling early at GBH Music's Jazz Night, featuring saxophonist Ken Fields with his RSE Trio. Thursday at 5:30 at the Boston Public Library. Get a free ticket at wgbh.org/events.
Funding for our programs comes from you.
And M&M Skylights, installing and servicing the full range of commercial and residential Velux skylight products. More information about their installation process and consultations can be scheduled at mmskylights.com. And MIT Sloan Executive Education, fueled by cutting-edge research and aided by the latest technology, professionals can choose from more than 90 in-person and online courses offered throughout the year. executive.mit.edu.
You're listening to 89.7 WGBH HD1 Boston. Online at gbhnews.org. GBH News. What matters to you?
Welcome back to Boston. We're a little bit disorganized, our apologies. Welcome back to Boston Public Radio. Marjorie, do you want to take it away?
Yes, this is hour number 2 of Boston Public Radio. Jim Brady and Marjorie Egan, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. Brian Shoresleeve, the Republican candidate for governor, is going to join us here at the library tomorrow, and the mayor of Boston is going to be with us May 27th, also here at the library. Go ahead, Jim.
Come on over. We're whatever.
We're disorganized.
We're trying to get our act together, which is not easy considering who we are. Our next guest entered the public eye on 2 different stages. For Chris Herren, he was a point guard at Marjorie's high school, where she was a star cheerleader, I should say, in her time. He was pretty good at basketball, and then he was pretty good in college, and pretty good with the Nuggets, and pretty good with the Celtics. Here he was scoring a 3 for that very same team.
Eric Williams, he goes to Chris Herren, and Chris Herren comes through big with a big 3. It's 99-96 Boston.
A big 3. Woody Giessmann was keeping time as a drummer for a great band called the Fuegos. Then both of their lives were upended by addiction. Both found recovery and a path forward, helping others with their own substance abuse disorders. After the loss of his brother, Woody Giessmann confronted his own issues with substance abuse, committed himself to helping others. Originally, he ran Right Turn Recovery Clinic in Watertown for 21 years. He's now an addiction specialist and interventionist. Chris Herren's an author, motivational speaker, and wellness advocate, founding the Herren Project, which supports families with members in recovery, and Herren Wellness, a residential substance use, health, and wellness organization. Chris, Woody, it's great to see you both. Thanks so much for being here. Appreciate it.
Thank you both for coming in. So, Chris, let's start with you. How did you find your way to recovery? Took a while.
It did. I was 32. I had, my wife was pregnant with our youngest, and I had 2 children, both 9. Christopher was 9 and Samantha was 7. And, I had overdosed multiple times. And as I'm laying in Charlton Memorial Hospital in Fall River, I had someone who I played in the NBA with by the name of Chris Mullen, who kind of advocated for me and navigated the process of walking through the doors of recovery. That was almost 18 years ago, and I've tried to build my life around that over the last 18 years, that to be somebody's Chris Mullen, the way he was for me. That family picked up the phone and navigated that process for me for 3,000 miles away. And, I was lost. I was hurting, and I was close to death. And I had this beautiful family. And, God willing, I'll celebrate 18 years sober in August.
So did you have a Chris Mullen? Woody, what was the story of your path to recovery? Your own?
To recovery?
Yeah.
So I was in Los Angeles, and I ran into a dear friend of mine, a fellow musician, Peter is his name, Peter Case. Some people may know him. He's just performed here in Boston. And he looked at me and said, I'm really worried about you, And so I went to his home in Santa Monica the next morning, thinking that we were going to write some songs together. But he did a kind of a kitchen table, old school intervention, cracked at the kitchen table, opening the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous and and taking it from there.
So how did you go from there to doing the work on a larger scale than Peter and Chris, as in Mullen, were doing? How did you transition to what you've done for the last couple of decades?
Well, you know, I was in Los Angeles and I left, the Del Fuegos left Warner Brothers, and I said to my wife, I think I have to go back to Boston to go to school. I'm going to get away from Los Angeles for now. And so I came back to Boston, actually to do a recording session, but I ended up staying, and it was the right decision to go back to school at UMass Boston and then on to my master's as well.
How about you, Chris? How did you go from almost dying to creating what you've created?
Honestly, it's a dream come true, and I mean that with all my heart. I was in a treatment center in Rhinebeck, New York in 2008, and I just felt this sense of pride, and I was part of something really special, meaning recovery. And, you know, I dreamt of being him, Chris Mullen, the basketball player, but I made it my mission that I would follow his footsteps in recovery and serve and help others. You know, recovery is beautiful. It's courageous. I love, more than anything, just being part of it from the beginning to the end. So.
Well, do you know what drives me and a lot of people crazy? I mean, a lot of us have people, you know, friends and family that have had problems either with alcohol or drugs or something. And so something bad will happen. Mm-hmm. You'll call 911. They'll take them to the hospital. And they're there for 3 days. And you mentioned this in one of your stories. Then you're sent home. Mm-hmm. Like 3 days is going to do something. Mm-hmm. And I think that's one of the things that's so hard. It takes... I don't know, you tell me, but 3 days is not going to do it.
You know, when I opened Herren Wellness 8 years ago, I was not totally aware of the impact that time has on people's lives and in their recovery. You know, I've had a front row seat down there and being part of the process with all of our guests, but it's time matters. And I try to tell families all the time, you know, like just sacrifice 60, 90, 120 days. It's a small window of time for an incredible return. You know, I remember walking into Charlton Memorial Hospital after overdosing, and they wanted nothing to do with me in that hospital. You know, they were looking at the police officers. Are you going to take him, or are we going to let him go? You know, I was walking right back out, and a nurse who kept her eye on me that day, saw me leaving the hospital, and she followed me out, and she said, Christopher, I went to high school with your mother. And she said, I know your mother's passed away, but can you please let me fill in for her and do what she can't for you? And, you know, that nurse, Diane Reed, she saved my life that day. You know, she intervened, and she was a nurse. She said, I'm not going to let this young man walk out of this hospital. I'm going to do something.
You know, and she helped you get into treatment.
She did. She held me in Charlton Memorial Hospital for a certain time. And then that's when the Mullen family picked up and navigated the process for me to transition to another center.
So before both of you are going to describe how you're doing your work, and I know you both believe there's no one-size-fits-all, Lindia Downey, who runs Pine Street, who's with us fairly regularly, uses the same term you do. She calls the people who stay their guests, just like you did. Obviously, that's very intentional. Why does that matter?
Because I want them to have freedom and expressing themselves, not feel like in a box. You know, I want them to come and feel that they're not a patient in my center. They're a guest. It's their place. It's temporary. And we've created an environment there where people settle in. And that's the toughest thing. You know, you get through that initial window of 21 days, 28 days, and once you convince them to just sacrifice and stay another month and be a guest for another month, things change.
You know, we have to take a break in a minute, so we'll get to what you're doing. But one of the things Marjorie and I talk about every time we're lucky enough to talk to people like you who do the kind of work you do is whether or not the stigma that was attached to addiction for so long is getting less. And what I think the answer we most frequently hear is it's getting less, but it's still far too high. What's your assessment of how people see those with addiction in 2026?
Well, and that's a good point, that the stigma does exist, which forced me to write my book to do my part of trying to address this.
Tell people the name. It came out last year. What's the name again?
It's called Drinking a Love Story, Breaking the Chains of Addiction. And you can get it on any platform.
What's your sense of the stigma today, Chris Herren?
You know, I've been kind of out in front doing what I do, speaking publicly for 15 years, and primarily to high school kids. I do roughly around 200 high schools a year. I just came from the Rivers School in Weston, and I'm speaking tomorrow in California. I think we've done incredible work together as a community of lowering that stigma. I think it still exists, and there's a lot of work to be done, but I think we've done a really good job at changing the face.
Zoe, we can break early so that they can come back and tell the story.
But we're going to get Chris's books in there, too. You've got Fall River Dreams. What's the second book?
Basketball Junkie.
Basketball Junkie and Fall River Dreams. Both really good reads about your story.
Before we take a break, I want to brag about something I did that you may not be aware of, Chris Herren. When I was on television in Greater Boston, you were part, as was she.
That's right.
In the only all-Fall River television show in history. We had you. We had the Marjorie Egan. And you remember who the third was?
Moniz.
Ernie Moniz, who helped
brilliant
negotiate.
guy from MIT.
Who helped negotiate the nuclear
deal. Which
that should be on your resume, Chris. I mean, you do it, but that will be.
Okay.
It will be, okay.
We're going to take a quick break here to make some money, but we're going to be right back. We've been speaking with Woody Giessmann. We're going to keep talking to them. Former Del Fuegos drummer, and current addiction specialist interventions, and Chris Herren with the Herren Project, and author and former Celtics and NBA point guard. Coming up right after this, we'll be speaking to them some more. We're going to make some money here.
Live, local, 5 days a week. Jim Braude, Marjorie Egan, Boston Public Radio. It's here on GBH Radio because of your support. Now's your chance to keep the conversation going. Give online at gbhnews.org or call 888-897-9424.
Okay, let me repeat those numbers, 888-897-9424, gbhnews.org. This is the next to last day of our spring pledge break, and we do these things every year because we are mostly listener-supported. Now we're entirely listener-supported because the government took away all the funding from NPR, so we are ever more appreciative of the generosity of people who are listening like you, and we have a kind of a neat gift today, $10 a month, annual subscription of The Atlantic. That is a great magazine. It's hired a lot of great journalists have been hired elsewhere. You know who runs it? It's Steve Jobs' wife, Lauren Powell.
Well, she owns it. I don't know if she
owns
runs
it. Yeah, she owns it. So there's deep pockets there at The Atlantic, which means they can do some really great journalism. Jeffrey Goldberg, the guy who found about Pete Hegseth sharing military secrets and unsecure source, that signal thing, that was broken by them. And the stories about Kash Patel. We should talk to you guys about Kash Patel. Kash Patel is giving away his bottles of bourbon as the head of the FBI. They broke that story too. So that's our gift for today. $10 a month, and we really appreciate people to keep sustaining because it means our budget people know how much they have to spend for the year. So anyway, here's the number, 888-897-9424, gbhnews.org.
Okay, we only do this during pledge. We're going to read some very nice comments about us from those who were kind enough to make a contribution. I listed Jim and Marjorie in GBH when I'm walking dogs in Falmouth. That's Jody. In T-Ticket, that's whatever. Sandra in Carolina, I guess one of the Carolinas. Jim and Marjorie, thank you for keeping us so well informed and sane. You are a do not miss in our house. On John in Milford. I listen to a lot of your programs, love them all, especially like listening to Jim and Marjorie. We can't thank you enough. And by the way, when the gift is good, and this is really good, The Atlantic is as good as writing gets in our estimation. We have a lot of guests from the show. Juliet Kayam writes for them regularly. As I mentioned, Tom Nichols on International Affairs was with us the other day. The woman who exposed Kash Patel in so many ways in 2 wonderful pieces recently. I think it's Sarah Fitzhugh, whatever it is. She's great. She works there. Wonderful gift. But again, don't give because you're getting the Atlantic subscription. Give because you appreciate what our colleagues do at this station, both on the air and behind the scenes. If you consume it, if you're a guest of these shows and value what you get, here's your opportunity to show it. Give whatever you can. If you can't afford the $10 a month, give whatever you can once. 888-897-9424, gbhnews.org. Welcome back to BPR and 89.7 GBH. Marjorie Egan, Jim Browdy, streaming youtube.com/GBH News. We're speaking with Woody Giessmann, former Del Fuegos drummer, current addiction specialist, interventionist. Chris Herren, former great basketball player from the Herren Project and Herren Wellness, a bunch of things which they both describe. He's an author, motivational speaker, and former NBA player.
You know, Chris, I know you go to a lot of schools. You just mentioned going to the River School and talk about what you went through and that you started using drugs when you're fairly young as a teenager. So every parent in America wants to keep their kids from using drugs as a teenager, and most of us fail. What do you tell kids?
Well, you know, to kind of circle back to the stigma, you know, I've been doing it for 15 years, and the first 8 years of presenting in front of children, I told my story, right? And I would leave the school, and I would get emails from kids saying, thank you, God bless you, good luck with your family, and I would never hear their story. So I pivoted my style of presenting to children, and I thought that I was playing into the stigma somewhat. I think I was too heavy focused on the worst day of addiction, and we forget the first day. I think we put so much investment in showing kids what it looks like in the end rather than understanding the beginning. And it's been an incredible shift for me. It's been an incredible shift presenting that way to children, which I believe has played a part in lessening the stigma.
Can you describe what you do besides speaking? I know you do like 300 a year.
Yeah.
Explain the other programs.
Or the beginning,
the
beginning thing, though. I mean, when you talk about you want to emphasize the beginning, what does that mean?
Well, it's you know, for instance, most parents, when their kids come home and they recognize or suspect that they're under the influence of alcohol or drugs, the questions are, the interrogation becomes, who were you with? Where did you get it? What did you do? How much did you do? And parents don't ask kids why. And I think parents need to ask kids why. I think parents need to sit down with their young teenagers, adolescents, and understand their why. Personally, I think we need to challenge our kids in that space more, and that's why I love going into schools and doing that. Because I think they need to be made aware of that. I think as a kid, a drug addict wasn't in a Celtics uniform. You know, that's not how I perceived addiction to be. So I think if we can present that full picture, that transition, I think we have a better chance at preventing our children from
briefly just do describe the programs that you have available.
So 15 years ago, I started the Herren Project, and I wanted to be Chris Mullen, right? I wanted to be that person on the phone to say, I got you. And, you know, that was my dream. And we just celebrated 15 years, and over the last 15 years, we've been that vehicle for close to 10,000 people. Oh. You know, we've given away close to $10 million of scholarships to support families, and we've implemented our programming in thousands of schools all over the country. At 10 years sober, I had a dream, and that was to open Herren Wellness. I wanted a front row seat. You know, I was helping people from afar. I wasn't going through that process with them. And, you know, we opened Herren Wellness 8 years ago, and over the last 8 years, again, thousands of people have flown in from all over the country. And I've been part of their story, and I don't think you can ask for anything more than that, you know. And I recently celebrated 17 years sober, and I was looking out into the audience at my center, and there was 150, 200 people there, and I said, you know something, I know everybody's name, and I know everybody's story, and I want to keep it that way, you know. So it's a very small, private, holistic recovery center located in Seekonk, and we do incredible work.
So, Woody, how about your approach to recovery and how you implement it with those you see?
Well, you know, I always like to have the conversation knowing that the first exposure to substances, the national average would be age 14. And we want to be able to do some form of an intervention to educate them so that they'll understand that it impacts the limbic system, the emotional brain, and can developmentally delay the emotional response. Did that answer your question?
It does answer the question. You know, we had yesterday Dr. Catherine Gergen-Barnett, who's from Boston Medical Center and BU Medical School and those things, and we were talking about GLP-1s and the conversations we've had with people. 2 thumbs up from Woody Giessmann right here. Talk about, well, we all knew about diabetes up front, and the first off-label was obviously obesity. And we've had people, including Paul Revel's son from Rhode Island, who deals with addiction issues, saying that all kinds of addiction, at least there's some evidence, can be addressed. Alcohol, drugs, shopping, gambling. Do you subscribe to that notion, Mr. 2 thumbs up?
I absolutely do. You know, under the medical direction of Dr. Albanese, when I opened my clinic, Right Turn, 20 plus years ago, I always wanted to expand the access to medications that would help people. Anything from naltrexone to buprenorphine, and I'm just highly intrigued by the landscape of GLP and this new technology. I'm going to go on record as saying I have personal experience with GLP-1, but I also have worked with several doctors recently who are successfully using GLP-1 for alcohol use disorder.
How about you? Where are you on GLP-1s there, Chris Herren?
I mean, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know. I think it's early, you know, and I don't know enough about it yet. So I would love, I mean, again, I subscribe to the same school of Woody, is that, you know, whatever it is that's going to help people, I'm all for it. And he mentioned a few things, but as far as GLP-1s, I think we're early, and I don't know enough about it to say I support it.
You know, one other general thing, everybody we've ever, we don't have no idea about what you're doing, except what you and people like you are kind enough to share with us. But the mantra that we hear from listeners or callers people don't have the expertise you do. The most important thing is somebody who suffers from addiction has to want to address it before they can be helped. Is that BS or is that true, starting with you, Chris, and then Woody?
No, I think it's BS.
You do? Why?
I do. I think because I think families need to be involved in that process. I think people struggle to make really healthy decisions when they're struggling. And I think, you know, the more people we have involved, the more love we surround them with to push them towards recovery, the better. So
you buy into that?
I think it's really important what Chris just said, that when I work with an individual, we don't want them to hit rock bottom. I lost my brother from hitting rock bottom. It's really important to recognize that someone may be pre-contemplative or contemplative and not ready to, but that's my responsibility as a counselor and as an interventionist, to bring them into preparation and take the action and let them know that recovery is good.
You know, I'm clearly obsessed with this idea you get in the hospital for 3 days and they throw you out in the street and then you're supposed to fend for yourself. We've taught for ages, mass and cast down here, big time problem with people who have addiction issues and a lot of violence down there. It's difficult. They've tried to fix it and so forth. But about 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago by now, the sheriff, who sits got in a little hot water. But anyway, the sheriff said he would open up his jail, and it is a jail, but give people 90 days of treatment, but they'd force them into treatment. And everybody said that was a terrible idea. You have to be ready for treatment. And you guys know better than I do. Maybe that is a terrible idea. On the other hand, people don't always want to go into treatment if they're an active drug user, an alcoholic. And you see families struggle, and they can't get them into treatment because the person doesn't want to go, and then they end up dead. So I don't know. what do you guys think? Should you force somebody in? Do you do an intervention, or just wait till they're ready?
No, I feel it's my responsibility to help them get ready. And it's really important. We know that the brain doesn't start to get well for up to 6 months. The outcomes look much better at 12 months of sobriety. It's really an opportunity for someone to be welcomed at a program like Chris's and to take the time and learn more about substance use as a disease.
What do you think?
I think, and I'm going to kind of circle back a little bit. I think the word rock bottom has had a tremendous impact on the addiction, the recovery community. I think, there's this notion that someone has to be near death and lost everything before we intervene and help. And I think what I've noticed over the last 10, 15 years is that people are coming into places like mine earlier.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, they're coming in earlier. And, it's interesting. At my place in Seacon, over the last 2.5 years, things have changed drastically. It's either young adults or people 60 and older.
Really?
Yeah. So it's interesting. So I think families are advocating and pushing to their loved ones, maybe their mom or dad in their 60s or 70s, like, listen, we don't want to close life out like this. Let's take a swing at it.
Can we take the last 30 seconds from each of you, starting with you, Chris, and Woody? What do you say to someone out there who is suffering from addiction or has someone they love who's suffering from addiction? What's the threshold message that through Herren and through Giessmann you convey?
Yeah, so I mean, for me, it's love, right? I think that's what's missing most of the time. There's a lot of anger, a lot of frustration, a lot of sadness and trauma around addiction. I think love oftentimes needs to be more involved. I mean, as I said in the beginning of this show, right? I'm not an expert. I'm a guy coming up on 18 years sober, and I love this community. I love recovery, and I love fighting with people to get sober. And I know one thing, right? I would have sold myself short 18 years ago. 18 years ago, I didn't have this vision. And recovery has given me this, and recovery has given me everything that I have in my life today. It's not only part of me, it's part of my children,
How about you, Woody?
I'm handing my medallion for 36 years to Chris. I want him to rub it. I echo everything that Chris just said, and it's wonderful that we have that to share. And you mentioned rock bottom. I've been writing a musical with Simon Kirk from Bad Company and the amazing Tony V to put the word
Tony V.
Right. So look for rock bottom this fall.
We're very excited. How do people find you, Chris Herren, or your programs?
I'm pretty easy, right?
No, I mean, what's your website?
Herrenwellness.com, herrenproject.org.
Herren.
Okay, I got one more
question.
question.
And Woody, how about you? How do they find you?
You go to my website, recoveryour.life.
Fair enough.
Okay, I got one more question. I don't know if I asked you this before, but if I did, excuse me.
It's going to be a Fall River question, I can tell.
Well, not necessarily.
It is. I'm telling you.
No, it's not going to be a Fall River question,
yes,
really.
It is.
But I saw that, I saw you play in high school. I remember seeing you over in Dorchester with your father in the parking lot, hello, and all that. But I watched the ESPN thing. It showed you when you were a kid and Durfee, and then in college and out with that Tarkanian guy, and then playing with the Celtics and stuff. And I thought he had the right idea, by the way, to watch you all the time, make sure you were staying sober. But I always thought to myself, I've had a few cocktails in my day, smoked some pot in my day.
Sure.
I couldn't really function at my highest when I was doing that. I'm high. How could you play basketball when you were as high as you were? You were playing with the Celtics.
Sure. I mean, I shared this yesterday. I think, one of the greatest accomplishments of my life athletically was wearing a Celtics uniform, and it's probably one of the most shameful things I've ever done in my life is wear a Celtics uniform. I at that time in 1999, 2000, I was battling OxyContin. OxyContin was not in the headlines in 1999. I wasn't familiar with it, and I evolved into taking 1,600 milligrams a day, spending $20,000 a month. on OxyContin, and that was at the peak of my athletic career, playing for the Boston Celtics. So the Celtics, I share in the documentary is that I was outside waiting for my drug dealer to show up.
Canal Street.
Here I am, this kid, and it's sad, right? Like I can talk about it today, but I'm in the Celtics warm-ups that I watched Larry Bird and Kevin McHale and Robert Parrish wear, and here I am standing in the players' parking lot, just looking for him to pull in so I can play in this game. So I didn't perform at a high level. My career, once OxyContin entered my world, my career started transitioning down pretty quick.
Okay, I have a Fall River question before we go. Very quickly, if I can. You're a little bit younger than Marjorie, a couple of years.
Quite a bit younger.
Were the players on your team at Durfee High still talking about her as a cheerleader?
Oh,
Tell the truth.
We're still talking about it today.
Today.
Yeah,
that's what I wanted to hear.
I'm a legend there by cartwheels.
Hey, congratulations to both of you on your really, really important work, and it's great to see you both. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much for coming in.
Well, we're
an honor to talk
both.
to you. Absolutely. We've been speaking with Woody Giessmann, former Del Fuegos drummer, current addiction specialist and interventionist, and Chris Herren with the Herren Project, author, former NBA point guard, great player for my high school, great player for the Boston Celtics, even though it was short. And we thank the Herren Project. We thank him very much for coming in. Up next, we're going to open the lines to get your thoughts on unplugging from the internet and touching. Oops, my microphone go, as I like to say. I'm Marjorie Egan. He's Jim Browdy. This is BPR 89.7 GBH.
It's time to support Boston Public Radio on GBH. Listener contributions pay for the program and keep it on the air. You don't have to give much to make a difference. Please make a difference by giving now at gbhnews.org or by calling 888-897-9424.
So Marjorie is communing with Chris Herren, so I will do this here. The number to make a contribution is 888-897-9424, gbhnews.org. Second to last day of the spring GBH membership drive. Marjorie, I don't remember the word she uses to call enticement. It's not enticement, a wonderful thank you gift if you are kind enough to give $10 a month to, or $120 all at once to GBH, and you'll get this subscription to The Atlantic online, one of the most important, powerful, well-written, well-thought-out publications in America. We both read it every single day. It's terrific. You have full online access, their newsletters, their podcasts, etc. But let me say for the 400th time, that shouldn't be the reason you're given. That's an additional benefit. You should give if you care about what you get from our colleagues here at GBH. And if you do, contribute whatever you can afford at 888-897-9424, gbhnews.org.
Yeah, it's a really, as Jim said, it's an absolutely fantastic gift, this subscription to The Atlantic online. The journalism there is fantastic. As you want to read more details about Kash Patel and his travails, you can't beat it. Anyway, we really appreciate anything you can give, especially if you haven't given before, because we are dependent now on the kindness and generosity of people that listen to us, and it really means a lot, especially the people that write in and say these nice things. Arlene from Wayland, appreciate the factual news reporting, engaging conversations with Jim and Marjorie, and Jared Bowen on the Culture Show, which comes on at 2 o'clock every day. 888-897-9424, gbhnews.org.
Welcome back to BPR on 89.7 GBH. Marjorie Egan, Jim Browdy, streaming youtube.com/GBH. This segment's going to be really brief because we went over intentionally with Woody and Chris because we really wanted to flesh it out as best we can. So let me just introduce what we're going to talk to you about. If you've communicated with a Zoomer lately, you've probably been told you need to, quote, touch grass. That is, you're too connected to the internet, your phone, the online world, you're losing touch with reality. So for the rest of the show, we're metaphorically, and I would say literally in some cases, touching grass. Getting our thoughts on how you reconnect with yourself, with nature, with the real world. And the number to communicate that with us is 877-301-8970. Marjorie hadn't heard of this erstwhile first baseman for the Red Sox who's been injured. His name is Kristen Cassis. He does this touch grass thing in pregame rituals. Sunbathing, Marjorie, doing yoga, going barefoot in the outfield grass at Fenway Park. And I assume we all remember lazy moments lying in the grass and cloud gazing. I actually don't, but I'm sure Marjorie does. Should we be bringing back some slow, grounding, nature-based rituals to sort of calm us down? Should we all not be touching grass? So we only have 2 minutes till break, and then we'll continue. 877-301-8970. You're a touch grass kind of person.
I am. Well, I'm not out there all the time, but I people that I like to be outside every day, and it just feels good to be outside. But I remember being somewhere, I forget where I was, but a couple of years ago, and I was just hanging outside with some of my kids or whatever, and we were all lying on the grass and looking at the clouds like I did when I was like 11 years old. Don't you? You didn't do that when you were a kid? I know you were in that high-rise apartment. So maybe
I was in a high-rise apartment.
But lying in the grass and looking at the clouds, it's like an unbelievable experience. And it's like these people say in these stories, it's very soothing to be in nature. Remember they talk about that tree bathing when you go in the forest and you just walk through the trees?
You think I'm doing tree bathing? You've known me for almost 30 years. Do you think I am tree bathing now or ever?
It's not kind of your thing. I realize that. But I get why people do it, and I think it's wonderful. And walking barefoot in the grass is a wonderful thing. And why do you think people like going to the ocean, sitting on the beach in the summertime? It's not just to get a tan. It's to sit there and zone out and look at the water and the clouds.
It's like
Jim.
touching sand as opposed to touching grass.
That's right.
So Marjorie obviously has experienced this a lot. I have yet to experience it, but would like to. What's the number again?
877-301-8970 is the number. 877-301-8970. Oh, here's that first text. This little downbeat. They say, I totally unplug in the weekends and read, but inside right now have to be because the pollen is trying to kill me. Pollen is particularly bad this year. I think it has to do with the climate change kind of issue. Yes, it does. But I mean, getting outside is a big deal. I don't know why
what
people...
What does it do for you exactly?
Why does anybody want to run on a treadmill?
We got to take a break.
Why don't you go outside and
What
run?
is it, quickly, what does it do for you?
It calms me down.
Okay.
It just makes me feel better. It improves my mood.
Okay.
I don't get so upset about politics when I'm outside.
Touching grass is our topic. Give us a buzz, 877-301-8970. We'll be right back.
Right back.
Marjorie in particular. I'm trying my best too. At 888-897-9424, GBHnews.org. You know what today is, Marjorie?
Today
second to last day of
That's
pledge.
right, second to last day
so
of pledge.
So get your A game on.
One more day of this.
Go ahead.
It's all you have to put up with this.
What's,
okay. If we didn't have this pledges a few times a year, we would have to have commercials. And Jim and I used to work in commercial radio, and that means, commercials can be like 5 and 6 minutes, and they're 3 times an hour. You don't want to listen to that, these awful commercials about gross stuff, and nobody wants to hear them. A lot of them were pretty bad, let's face it. Yeah, well, a lot of it was pretty bad.
Okay.
So we don't have those. We have a few times a year, we have these pledge drives, and we are entirely dependent now on private donations from people that listen to this station, and it really means a lot if you take the time to give. I don't know if you read some of these before, Jim.
Margaret from Carver, read that one, because it touches on everything in our time block.
I have been a long-time GBH 89 listener. I have to say Jim and Margie are my favorite, but I like the Culture Show and the Curiosity Desk. That's at 1 o'clock right after us. I know when I tune in, I'm going to get the news and information I need. Fair and balanced. Thank you for the service you provide. Thank you very much, Margaret. That was very nice. This is free. It is free, and that's why we need to ask for money because, as we said, the government has shut us off. Anyway, 888-897-9424, gbhnews.org. That's how you give, and we appreciate whatever you can. 877-301-8970 is the number to call us to talk about getting out in the grass. Courtney from Rockport, you are first. Thank you for calling.
Hey, Courtney.
Hi, thank you. I've had the privilege of getting through a couple times. So it's good
great.
to talk to you again. I'm from Rockport, and I was blessed to live on the ocean, and that's my primary way of connecting is just looking or even walking down to the coastline and putting a little salt water on my face. But just look this up on Facebook to check. 10 years ago, I'd been seeing someone who loved it barefoot and connected like the frequency of the earth. And so I tried it out, and I was walking around Rockport, and this man approached me, and he said, "Oh my gosh, you're a barefooter." And I looked down, he's got bare feet. And he handed me this card that he carries around. It's like a license to be barefoot, and invited me to a Facebook group, which still exists. It's called Barefoot is Legal. And it was exactly 10 years ago, he wrote, "Courtney, it was great meeting you today. Amazing timing as you start your barefoot venture."
That's
so, thank you. I haven't been doing it much, so thanks for the reminder.
Wow.
That's
so
pretty
it's
great.
a group of people that walk around barefoot.
Yeah.
I'm a little nervous about doing it in the street.
Yeah.
I'm worried about stepping on glass.
Well, actually, ask Courtney. Do you do it on the street before you get to the beach, or do you wait till you get there? How do you do this, Courtney? We need some instruction.
Before I met this person, it would just be on the beach, but I, for a little while, did walk around Rockport barefoot, and that was noticeable to some of the more conservative folks.
Now, let me ask you something. Jill, don't go away, because you've got
Courtney.
exactly the right attitude. No, Courtney, I'm sorry. Courtney, before you go, listen to what Jill texts, and maybe you can respond to Jill better than we can. I like the idea of touching grass, but excessive use of pesticides and goose poop is not that appealing to my bare feet. Sitting on a bench in an ice park or a place like Garden in the Woods is lovely. What do you say to Jill, Courtney?
Oh, that's exactly what I started to find was where is there chemicals? Where is it actually an organic, earthly experience? And where am I putting myself at risk of getting some sort of goose poo infection? So
you're with her. That was
Jill.
that was a very supportive, bless you, Marty, very
Excuse me.
supportive comment. Courtney, thank you much
Did
for
you
your
read
call and your experience.
Marjorie from Fort Lauderdale?
I did not. I think it's inappropriate.
You think it's
considering
inappropriate?
No, I'm not.
Okay.
I'm kidding.
I know. We were just talking about
Go ahead.
drugs, but anyway, Marjorie's doing it down in Florida. Touch grass, I break it up and smoke it, and then I look at the clouds.
That's what Marjorie did, by the way. Trust me, that's what she did.
877-301-8970. I mean, everybody thinks being outside. Somebody's texting about touch a tree camping. That's when you go out in the forest and you walk around in the forest bathing. So it's the same kind of thing.
You know, by the way, do you know my friends Juan Ma and Maria, who own a bunch of restaurants, including the brand new one that they just opened down the street here at Newbury Street?
Mm-hmm.
Her daughter is on the front page, she's at Harvard, on the front page of the New York Times with some tree touching thing that was a project at Harvard. So even there, they're teaching this
tree
whatever
huggers,
thing.
Jim? Haven't you ever heard about the tree huggers that go out and hug the tree? I mean, you famously tried to rescue a big plum tree or something?
No, as a matter of fact, one of my great
Some kind of
victories.
tree.
No, I'll explain it, Marjorie, if you don't mind.
Okay, Jim is
By the
gonna
way, the
explain
restaurant
it.
is Rosa E. Marigold,
Yeah.
and they have several others, Celeste, etc. What's my point? Oh, there was a tulip tree when I was a city councilor.
Tulip tree.
And it was 150 years
Yeah.
old. Marjorie's going to mock this because that's what she does.
Because it's an unbelievable
Now,
story.
let me tell you, the story, the truth of the story was I, as a leader on the city council, led the fight to get the tulip tree from not being cut down. The
Right.
reason Marjorie is laughing
Yeah.
is the following. I'll tell the story in my own words because
Okay.
Marjorie will bastardize it, as she always does when it relates to me.
Okay.
I had promised my
Yep.
supporters in the city of Cambridge
His supporters.
that I would chain myself
Millions
to the tree.
of them. Chain himself
So it couldn't be tied down.
to the tree.
And it is true, when I got there was an old lady who was like 90 who said, "I will chain myself to the tree if you go get the coffee." And I did. She chained herself to the tree,
Yeah,
and I
this-
went to
yeah,
Starbucks.
this-
I bought coffee for everybody. I didn't submit
This
the receipt
little
to
old
the
lady
city.
is chained to the tree, and Jim is at the Starbucks.
You know how many
getting
years
a
ago that was? That
macchiato.
was 2001.
It was a long time ago.
And can I tell you something?
Did you
I
save
drove
the
by
tree?
the tree yesterday.
Is it still there?
She's still there. And every couple of days I drive by, give her a sandwich, cup of coffee. She's good.
Okay.
She's good. Now, by the way, that was one of the great causes that I led as a city councilor.
One of the textures says, "I've stepped on earthworms and a slug while barefoot. It was very unpleasant."
Slugs, by the way, I hate
Slugs are bad.
Slugs are a real serious
But
problem.
here somebody says, "I'm in the woods right now, walking the dog, listening to you guys, and kind of touching grass."
It's beautiful.
Walking the dog in the woods. Let's go
Nice.
to Patricia in Rhode Island. Hi, Patricia.
Hi, Patricia. How are you?
How are you? I love your show.
Thank you.
For keeping
Thanks.
I rescued a special needs pig lizard last September. She's an amputee, and they sleep for a good part of the winter, and it took a lot of months to get her health back on track. And now with the warm weather, I take her out in the yard, and I cry because she gets in the grass, and she just burrows her head in the grass, and she closes her eyes, and she sunbathes. And it's just such a nice thing to see her healthy again. So it doesn't only help us, it helps animals.
I'm not sure I heard you rescued, to use your term, a special needs lizard?
Yes, she doesn't have a right hand or a toe because another lizard attacked her and bit her hand off. And she gets around fine. She's a good ambassador. She's a lovely animal. Do you remember the story about the lizard they found in Providence under the snow?
No. Oh, sure. Oh, yeah. Of course, yes, you do.
She's the same species, but she's a blue tegu, so she's smaller. She's 3 foot long and about 5 pounds. And it's a learning experience. I'm a senior. And
it's a big lizard.
Yes.
Patricia, that is a really touching story. Go ahead. I'm sorry I interrupted you. Go ahead.
No. I'm a senior. I'm totally disabled, and I need channeling for I need enrichment. And I learned husbandry, and I learned what she needs, and hopefully she'll live a good life.
Why aren't we doing something like that? Patricia, that is a beautiful, beautiful story. Good for you. Why don't you rescue a special needs lizard, Marjorie, or something?
Well, I had a lizard once.
You did not.
I killed it by accident.
What?
It choked to death on a cockroach.
That's not true.
Was it cockroaches you buy to feed them? Whatever you buy to feed them, I bought the wrong size and the lizard died.
That is a horrible story.
It was a terrible story. We started out green, and one day I woke up and it was all black. And
That's really
my children were appalled. I should have told that story because
you shouldn't.
That was such a lovely story, Patricia. But I didn't mean to kill the lizard. It was absolutely by mistake. A lot of people are not really into this whole thing today.
What, touching grass?
Yeah, somebody else says I touched the grass. Well, at least I thought I did. Turns out I'm covered in poison ivy, and they're spending all the time itching. And then somebody else says, yeah, I touched the grass, and I have to check for ticks because tick season is very bad. So I don't know. We don't seem to have a lot of outdoor
They're a bunch
enthusiasts.
of misanthropes listening to our show.
Yeah, they're not outdoor types.
Okay, we have time for one more quick call. Kelly in Westboro, hi.
Hi.
Hi. What's your
long-time listener, first-time caller. Thanks.
Love that. Thank you.
Yeah. So I see a real through line with your topics today, from talking about looking at kids having access to their phones during the school day to substance recovery, and love Chris Herren's work. And then in Westboro, we just celebrated our 7th annual Westboro Unplugged.
Oh, what's that?
Which is really an invitation. Well, at the community level, we encourage people to take a step away from their phone and their digital devices and invest in their social connections and their relationships, and discover sort of what's going on in the community that they can take advantage of. So we partner with a lot of groups. We had
That's great.
250 people at a bike parade last week. We had our 303-year-old local farm open up their whole land for us. Yes, lots of things going on. So
any lizards or no?
What's that?
Any lizards involved or no?
No lizards.
No lizards.
No.
Okay, well, by the way, that is a fabulous idea.
That's a
Every
fabulous
community
idea,
should
too.
buy in.
I know.
Kelly, congratulations. Excellent first call.
I'm
Thank
glad
you
we
very
had some
much.
people that were into this, because we had some
That
very
was beautiful.
sarcastic texts that weren't in the spirit of what we were talking about. Anyway, we are done for
We're done.
today. Thank you very much for listening to another edition of Boston Public Radio. We have a TikTok page, which is terrific. You can check out at Boston Public Radio, and a podcast as well. Tomorrow, we're going to be back here with Axios business editor Dan Primack, Republican gubernatorial candidate Brian Shortsleeve, our national security expert Juliette Kime will be with us as well. Our crew, Zoe Matthews, Nicole Garcia, Hannah Loss, Ariana Gonzalez, our engineer John McClaw Parker. Our executive producer is Jamie Bologna. Special thanks to our crew here at the library, Maddie Geyer, Bill Francis, and our friends at the Lenox Hotel, and of course the Newsfeed Cafe. Stay tuned to the Curiosity Desk with Edgar B. Herg III, which is going to start right after us here on 89.7 GBH.
Yeah, we're getting a lot of texts from people about question one, auditing the legislature. And yes, you were right. The Attorney General, I believe, announced her decision on our show. She is appointing a special Attorney General. If Diana DeZaglia, the auditor, chooses to continue to have Shannon Liss-Reardon represent her as she did in front of the state's highest court, that'll be it. So there is movement for the first time, big movement after the vote a year and a half ago. So congratulations to all the people who fought hard there.
I'm Marjorie Egan.
I'm Jim Browdy.
Thanks so much for tuning in today.
Bye.
Hope you can tune in tomorrow and have a great afternoon.
And you are listening to Boston Public Radio here on GBH 89.7. And it is 12:55. I'm Sonia Lee. I'm here with Sam Derringer. It is the next to the last day of our spring membership drive. Yes, it is the next to the last day. We are asking for your contribution now, especially if you are a fan of BPR. And to keep things on track as we wrap up the show, 15 contributions. That's what we need. 15 people to give in the next 5 minutes. And I'm sure we can find a few of you to support Boston Public Radio at gbhnews.org or 888-897-9424.
And we have a fantastic thank you gift for sustaining members today. This is a limited offer, 7 p.m. deadline tonight. When you give to GBH at $10 a month or $120 all at once, we're going to thank you with that digital subscription to The Atlantic. This is a fantastic subscription. Journalism, including audio articles, podcasts, more stories to get lost in anytime, anywhere. There's some of the best in the game. You don't want to miss out on this special limited offer. gbhnews.org when you call 888-897-9424.
And the Atlantic is a good example, too, just like NPR and BPR. The free press continues to be attacked, ranging from the president's defamation suits to regulatory threats to last year's defunding of public media, all of it intended to silence or chill public discourse. Here at GBH, we remain committed to being a strong and loud voice, reporting the facts and stories, and having those conversations that help keep our government accountable. And you hear those on BPR, too. And we're asking for your help right now in doing that by becoming a sustaining member, making a one-time gift here on this next to the last day of the membership drive, gbhnews.org, 888-897-9424.
And the best way to support GBH now is by becoming that sustaining member. You choose a monthly amount to give. Maybe that's $5, $10, $15 or more, and it's automatically deducted from your bank account or credit card. And that monthly contribution adds up to significant support as we continue to replace our lost federal funding and fund the future of GBH. Never been more important to give. Please enroll now when you go to gbhnews.org or when you call 888-897-9424.
And you only have a few minutes left, about 3 minutes left, to pick up at a digital access, a one-year digital subscription to The Atlantic and support GBH. We've got a great partnership that we're able to do this. The deadline's this evening, but you are a BPR fan, and this is a great way to get both The Atlantic and GBH with one gift of $10 a month to the station. This is a brand new thank you gift, and your subscription gets you unlimited access to all The Atlantic's journalism and their audio articles, podcasts, and stories, all things. This is for new subscribers, and your subscription gives you access to the work of dozens of the most interesting voices in America. Don't miss out on getting The Atlantic and supporting BPR and GBH. $10 a month, the one-time gift of $120. Just a couple minutes to go. gbhnews.org, 888-897-9424.
And the goal right now is 9 contributions in about the next 2 minutes here. If you've sat on the sidelines during past membership drives, please step up now as a sustaining member, or you can make a one-time gift super easily. The money you give now will help ensure the future of NPR and GBH News. Every dollar makes a difference. You can do this easily when you go to gbhnews.org, or again, when you call the number 888-897-9424.
And we can't stress enough that sustaining membership. It is a terrific way to support the station, and it's a monthly amount that is automatically deducted from your bank account or your credit card. Here's the deal. We got 6 contributions, just 6 more contributions to go. We have a couple minutes left here. We have the Curiosity Desk coming up next, but really looking for Jim and Marjorie fans to give. And when you do, you also get that one-year subscription to The Atlantic. gbhnews.org.
From the stories of centuries past to discoveries that will define our future, how did we get here's, how-tos, and more. Journey with us down the rabbit hole on the Curiosity Desk. Coming up next on GBH 89.7.
Support for GBH comes from you.
And GM Roth Design Remodeling, providing custom kitchens, bathrooms, and accessory dwelling units. Their design team works to create living-in-place solutions tailored to the needs of each home and family. More information at gmroth.com.
And the Boston Speaker Series announcing its upcoming season at Symphony Hall for 7 evenings, including Pete Buttigieg, former UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson, historian Doris Kearns Goodwin, and former U.S. Ambassador to China Nicholas Burns. BostonSpeakers.org.
You're listening to 89.7 WGBH HD1 Boston. Online at gbhnews.org. GBH News.
I'm Edgar B. Herwick III. Today on the Curiosity Desk, how did the city of Framingham become such a hub for immigrants? Now, it didn't happen by accident. So what happens to those immigrant communities and the city as a whole when the federal government starts targeting people doing immigration by the book? We'll meet one former Framingham resident who decided the American dream was not worth the risk and made the difficult decision to return to his home in Brazil. How's he doing now? And with his green card still pending, would he ever come back? Then it's not hard to understand why blockades at the Strait of Hormuz are having a direct impact on the price of oil. But what on earth does the U.S. war in Iran have to do with the rising cost of fertilizer? And no, that's not BS. It's nitrogen pulled out of thin air. That's all ahead this hour on the Curiosity Desk.
Live from NPR News, I'm Lakshmi Singh. The U.S. war with Iran has pushed inflation to its highest level in nearly 3 years. NPR's Scott Horsley tells us more about the latest cost of living report from the Labor Department.
Consumer prices in April were up 3.8% from a year ago. That's the biggest annual increase since May of 2023. Prices jumped 0.6% in the last month alone. Higher energy prices, triggered by the closing of the Strait of Hormuz, accounted for about 40% of that overall monthly increase. Gasoline prices have jumped about $1.50 since the war began, and diesel prices are even higher. That's also starting to show up in the price of other goods and services. The price of plane tickets, for example, is up more than 20% from a year ago, as airlines struggle with soaring jet fuel prices. Higher trucking costs may have also contributed to a sharp monthly jump in grocery prices. Scott Horsley, NPR News, Washington.
President Trump set to leave shortly for a state visit to China. He's expected to urge President Xi Jinping to persuade Iran to agree to U.S. conditions for ending a war the U.S. and Israel initiated in late February. Iran and China are close allies and trading partners. As Trump seeks Chinese support, he is bringing along corporate executives representing more than a dozen companies from Tesla to Meta that have major business interests in China. They include Apple's outgoing CEO Tim Cook. As NPR's John Ruwitch reports, Cook's being replaced by an executive who led hardware engineering teams for nearly all of Apple's best-known products.
Apple said the company faced supply chain constraints for its iPhone and Mac businesses. Unprecedented investment in artificial intelligence has pushed demand for memory chips through the roof. That's caused memory chip prices to soar. And Cook said he doesn't see the supply crunch easing. He expects significantly higher memory costs, which will impact Apple's business. Still, executives projected confidence. John Turnus, who takes over from Cook as CEO in September, said the company has an exciting roadmap ahead.
NPR's John Ruwitch. The WHO reports 11 cases of the rodent-borne illness hantavirus in connection with an outbreak on a cruise ship. The U.S. is among the countries contact tracing and quarantining a group of passengers from that ship. Here's NPR's Gabriela Manuel.
While hantavirus can cause very serious illness, the risk to the public at large is extremely low. Among the biggest reasons, hantavirus does not spread from one person to another that easily. Scott Weaver is with the University of Texas Medical Branch.
So if a person becomes infected with this hantavirus and there are no control measures in place, they're going to transmit on average to 2 other people.
Compare that with COVID, where he says an infected person can now pass it on to more than 10 people. And for measles, 15 other people get infected from one case on average. Gabriela Emanuel, NPR News.
It's NPR News.
Good afternoon. With the latest from the GBH Newsroom, I'm Henry Santoro. A much-anticipated announcement is being made today by Massachusetts Governor Maura Healey and Boston Pops conductor Keith Lockhart. Today is the day that we find out who the musical talent will be performing at the 4th of July Boston Pops Fireworks Spectacular Concert at the Hat Shell on the Esplanade. This afternoon's press conference at 3:15 will also include additional updates and previews related to the event, which will commemorate the 250th anniversary of the American Revolution. Lamar Cook, the Springfield-based aide to the administration of Massachusetts Governor Maura Healey, who was fired after an indictment on drug trafficking charges, is arguing that he should be able to keep his $31,000 in unused vacation time because he was fired via email before he was charged with the alleged crimes. The Globe reports Cook said in court documents that the timeline undercuts Healey's attempts to claw the money back and that forcing him to repay the $31,000 in unused vacation time would be inequitable. The state paid Cook in November, several weeks after he was arrested on gun and drug trafficking charges. He has pleaded not guilty. In sports, the Red Sox host the Phillies at Friendly Fenway tonight. That is a 6:45 start. In the forecast, partly cloudy, low 60s today, partly cloudy overnight tonight, low 43. Cloudy and low 60s tomorrow, then it looks like rain, and 60 on Thursday and Friday. 60 degrees in Boston right now, 61 in Springfield. This is GBH News.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Capital One, offering their premium travel card, Venture X. What's in your wallet? Terms apply. Details at CapitalOne.com. And listeners like you who donate to this NPR station.
Welcome to the Curiosity Desk on GBH 89.7. I'm Edgar B. Herwick III. We're streaming live at youtube.com/GBH News. A new short documentary from GBH tracks the final days in the U.S. for Anderson Costa, a Framingham resident who made a difficult decision to return to his home in Brazil after waiting years unsuccessfully for his visa application to move through the U.S. immigration system. In the city of Framingham, a community built by and for immigrants now wrestles with the questions of what happens when those same immigrants, like Anderson, feel that they can't stay. Downtown businesses are reporting a 40% drop in revenue. City public schools face declining enrollment. And what goes into that difficult choice to turn your back on the American dream? Joining us now over Zoom from Natal, Brazil, is the man I just mentioned, former Framingham resident Anderson Costa, and in Studio 3, GBH senior video producer Emily Judem, who reported and produced the project. Emily, thanks for being with us.
Thanks for having us.
Anderson, thank you. How are you doing? Anderson, if you could unmute yourself, we could hear what you have to say, and that I'm really looking forward to. So hit that unmute button on your Zoom if you could for us, and let us know how you're doing there. There he is. Now we got you. Well, the sound takes a while to travel from Brazil to Boston. So yeah, we got you. How are you?
Thank you for inviting me. I'm so glad to be here with you guys. I miss you, Emily. I love you.
I miss you here nice too, Anderson. It's nice to hear your voice.
Anderson, can you tell us a little bit about just you and the decision you made? How long were you living in Framingham? What was the lead up to this decision to leave? When did you leave? Just give us a little sense of it.
Yeah, it's hard to me because a long time ago I have a dream to live in America, and this is American dream itself. A lot of people have this dream, and I make the decision to go and see the country and start to work or help to pay the dentist college for my daughter. And I become lovely for America and try to change my tourist visa for work visa. And I did everything right. I paid my lawyer, I did everything what I need to do. But I don't know why the times go, and in 2 years, in 5 months, and I don't have any answer. And I have 5 children and my wife. My whole family was in Brazil, and they wait for me now. And I can send money for them, but it's not about money. It's about family. It's about memories. You know what I mean. American love family. I know this. I live this. I make family in America, and for me, it's hard to leave. When I make decision to leave, it's hard because I make family in America and I have family in Brazil.
Yeah.
And it's hard to make this decision, but I think I pray a lot and God answering me. First, the government. and I give up. I don't know. It's hard to say this because I'm a military guy, special force. I don't like to give up the dreams. I don't like to give up the fights. I don't like, but it's hard to live far away from my family. And I live 1 year and 6 months in Framingham, and I feel in Brazil. I feel home because it's a beautiful city, beautiful people. I make a lot of friends at the church and the gym, and I don't know. It's so hard to do to get the work visa now because I didn't write. I pay my tax. I pay my lawyer. I did everything right. And wait. It doesn't have an answer.
The long wait. Emily, I'm going to turn to you. I mean, is it possible to know how many Brazilian immigrants are making the same choice as Anderson?
We spent a lot of time in our reporting trying to find the answer to that. And for obvious reasons, it's a very complicated process for each individual and each family. And so there's no way to track exactly how many people are deciding to leave and voluntarily return to Brazil. But we did find numbers, which I believe you just mentioned several of them at the top of the show, that indicate that a lot of Brazilian families are choosing to.
What are some of the? I mean, what are some of the indicators that we can kind of look at and say, okay, this is starting to tell us a story here?
So businesses, as you mentioned, are reporting businesses in downtown Framingham, which are mostly small, independent businesses, are reporting a 40% decrease in revenues in the last year.
Yeah.
The schools have experienced a huge drop in enrollment. They've lost over 740 kids in the last year. And I spoke to the superintendent of Framingham Public Schools, and he said that this decline was unprecedented, not only at Framingham, but in his career as a superintendent.
So he's never seen anything like it.
He has not. Yes. And then also the Brazilian consulate in Boston said that they have issued triple the number of Brazilian passports since January 2025 as they did the previous year and a half.
Wow. Okay, so some strong indicators there of what's going on. For folks who maybe kind of vaguely know where Framingham is and maybe have driven past or through it but not spent a lot of time there, tell us a little bit about Framingham and the Brazilian community in Framingham in particular.
So Framingham, so I grew up in Framingham in the 80s and 90s. And that was just about the time when there was a huge wave of Brazilian immigrants. And the town had really been neglected. It had really fallen by the wayside, as a lot of these smaller cities did.
Could you tell that as a youngster? I mean, could you tell that it was a shell of something that it had been prior?
Yes. I don't think that I could have really understood that when I was very little, but we never stopped in downtown Framingham when I was very little. Yeah. There weren't any stores to go to. There wasn't any reason to stop. And little by little, as Brazilian immigrants came and built up the town and took over those storefronts, downtown Framingham became a really different place. And it is now has the highest concentration of Brazilian immigrants anywhere outside of Brazil.
Wow. Anderson, can you tell us a little, I mean, is this part of why you chose to settle in Framingham? You talked about, kind of having a dream for a long time of coming to America. Why Framingham?
It's funny because my choice is would be California, because I surfed a long time. But my friend live in Boston, and he asked me for help. He gave me help for 3 months. And when I start to live in Massachusetts, I start to live in Lowell, and my church, it's close to Framingham, Marlborough. And I made a couple friends in Framingham and see Framingham, and I see the Brazilian restaurant, Brazilian stores, Brazil for everywhere. I say, oh my God.
You're like, this is the place for me.
Yes, exactly this. And I start to move to Framingham, and I live in Framingham and make a lot of friends. It's funny because the most of my friends is a citizen, but citizen and this kind of citizen, they love Brazilian guys and help me a lot with my English, because when I arrived in America, I didn't speak in English, nothing. Just start to.
You had none
study.
when you came here?
Yeah.
Wow, incredible.
Yeah, I start to. The citizen, a lot of friends help me to learn and help me. This make me learn fast than in the school, and I really love Framingham because I feel home, and I feel home. Brazilian is a Brazilian city in Massachusetts.
That's very cool. You mentioned obviously the pull of family is one of the reasons why you returned to Brazil. You talked about the fact that your faith is important to you and you prayed on it, and that was a factor in your decision. But I also wonder about, you kind of mentioned politics a little bit, but the current administration's immigration tactics are something that are kind of front and center, and I wonder what impact that had on your decision and what it was like living in a community where you were a community that was being targeted heavily by ICE.
Yes, exactly this. My family, it's my first motivation to come back, because the actual administration make hard to stay in America. This application that I did, the long time is 1 year and 6 months, but I wait for 3 years, almost 3 years, and I don't know why it's so long. And I saw a lot of ICE operation in Framingham, Marlborough, and Milford. And I am a police guy. I'm not.
Right. Your job previous was.
I'm scared to be a criminal. I'm scared to be a criminal. I'm not criminal. I didn't say I'm far away from my family. I don't know what's going on. I don't know how long time I need to wait anymore. I will go back. I will go back. Exactly this.
You listen to the Curiosity Desk. We're talking with Anderson Costa and GBH's Emily Judem about a new short documentary featuring Anderson about Brazilians living in the city of Framingham. On a happier note, Anderson, what was it like when you got home? I mean, did people know you were coming home? Did your family know you were coming home? What was the reunion moment like?
Yeah, I did a surprise for my children. My wife knows about, but my
your children didn't know?
No,
did they flip out?
Just my wife, my parents, my children, and I make a video and share with Emily. Emily have this. I don't know if maybe she can do a second part of this documentary about this, but it's funny and very emotional for me. It's very, very nice.
Yeah. Well, Emily, speaking of that, I mean, Anderson just mentioned he's still giving you content, maybe for a part 2, but. Let's talk a little bit more about this documentary that you did produce. What was the production of that like, and what's the response been like?
So the production was a very intense, short amount of time. Yeah. As Anderson can attest to, I followed him around for several days.
How'd you meet Anderson?
So I.
Uh-oh! Wow, I stumbled onto a story here.
Funny. No, it's actually that I have a former teacher who I'm still in touch with on occasion, and he knew Anderson, and I was curious what was happening in Framingham, and what was happening with the Brazilian community. And he suggested that I talk to Anderson, and he put us in touch. And he said, I have a friend who happens to be leaving in about 3 weeks and going back to Brazil. And so I reached out to Anderson, and he was kind enough he was extremely gracious with his time and letting me follow him through all his errands and packing. And it is not a calm process trying to get yourself ready to move across the world.
Speaking of the documentary and your packing, Anderson, there's a moment in the documentary where you are making sure that you're getting a particular kind of, I think it's like a skin cream or something for your wife because she really likes this brand and it's not available in Brazil. Did you get it to her, and was she happy to receive it?
Yeah, this cream is fun because my wife have tourist visa. She came to the USA 3 times and buy this, but now she knows I will leave and we don't know. Maybe I don't come back anymore. And she said, "Please buy one more for me." And we're looking for an CVS, TJ Maxx, a lot of stores. And I found this, and I bring for her. She was very happy with this.
Was she happier to see you or to get the cream?
I think it's the cream. They're both.
This is Curiosity Desk. We're talking with GBH's Emily Judem and Anderson Costa about their new short documentary about Brazilians living in the city of Framingham. Anderson, I wonder, what would you say to folks who kind of hear your story or maybe see this documentary and say to themselves, well, I mean, he wasn't really here legally anyways. I mean, this is the immigration process. Like, is it more complicated than people realize? Is it not as simple as either you're here legally or you're not here legally?
Yes, it's more complication than people realize. I know I'm talking about by myself because when I saw people, I heard people talking about, you can come here, you can buy a lawyer, you can do an application, and but it's not so easy. And now, maybe before this administration, maybe it's easier, but now it's not. I didn't everything right, but it doesn't work. It doesn't matter what you do now. I think they don't want to make easy this process right now. You know what I mean? Because I have skills. I'm a special force. I'm a police. I'm a police officer again here.
So you were a police officer in Brazil before you came here.
Yeah.
Worked all kinds of jobs here. Now you're back and you're going back to policing, being back in Brazil.
Yes, exactly. And I don't know why, but I think I have a good skills for the government take advantage of this. And but I don't know. I saw a lot of Brazilian police officers working in America, but now it's hard to do this. I don't know why, but it's hard.
Emily, do you have a sense, I mean, from your reporting on this or just in general, I mean, how typical or atypical is Anderson's situation?
I will make a disclaimer that I'm not an attorney or anywhere close to an attorney, but I will say that from everyone I've spoken to reporting this story and previous immigration-related stories, this is quite common. The immigration process was already extraordinarily complicated and slow and burdensome before the Trump administration came in, and it is now, from where I'm sitting, seems untenable. And, I think there is a misconception that there is this black and white. You're either here legally or you're here illegally. But that's not the case. You're, under many types of visas, you are allowed to stay here and work here while your application is processing. But as Anderson experienced, and I think, others I've spoken to have experienced, that time frame is uncertain now. The results are uncertain. The process is extremely opaque. And it's hard to know, that the Trump administration has not always had that same view, even though you are legally allowed to be here while your application is processing. There have been instances where the Trump administration has still detained people who have the legal standing to be here.
Yeah, it's sad because I saw there is a fast pass you can pay in immigration, like for they should be to figure out your application in 60 days. 60 days, and a lot of people pay this and wait for 1 year.
Wow. So you pay extra money to get the thing
No,
fast-tracked.
I will try.
Or one
I will
can.
try.
But you're saying that there was a situation where...
I will try. Yeah, I will try, but I saw a lot of people pay it. Doesn't work.
Doesn't work. Well, I mean, you say you will try. So this kind of leads me to my final question, Anderson, which is to say at the beginning of this, you sort of said, to a certain extent, you long had an American dream. You came here trying to work it. You had the thought that maybe this is something you could bring your whole family here. It has not worked out this time. Is it over? Is this dream over, or will you try again? Would you come back?
It's not over because my application is still wrong. But I don't know if this administration will do something. Maybe I can wait for the next the two more years. I don't know. It's not dead. My dream is not dead. But I don't know what's going on. I don't know what's coming in the future.
All right. We've been speaking with Anderson Costa, the focus of a new short doc available right now on the GBH News YouTube channel. It's called Why Brazilians Are Leaving Framingham. Thank you, Anderson, for being with us.
Thank you.
And also thanks to Emily Judem, who's with us in studio. She produced the film. Thanks for being with us, Emily.
Thank you, Edgar.
All right, coming up, why war in Iran is making it more expensive to keep your garden up, and 4 things you're definitely going to want to know on this May 12th. I'm Edgar B. Herwick III. This is the Curiosity Desk. Don't go anywhere.
This is the Curiosity Desk, and today is our GBH membership drive. If you enjoy listening to Edgar and his crew as they dive into your most curious questions, consider making a contribution today. Any amount, whether it be $5, $10, or $50, supports our mission to bring you down-to-earth and interesting conversations. Enhance your own curiosity every day when you call 888-897-9424 or when you visit gbhnews.org. That's 888-897-9424 or gbhnews.org.
888-897-9424 is the number, or gbhnews.org. This is the next to the last day of the spring membership drive. I'm Edgar B. Herwick III of the Curiosity Desk, in studio with Patty Daniels, asking the procrastinators among you, and I say this with love because I myself have a tendency toward procrastination, to step up to the plate. The drive is almost over, so now is your chance to shine. 888-897-9424 or gbhnews.org.
There also might be strategic givers who have been waiting for the right moment, and this incentive might be the right moment for you.
Oh, there's an incentive?
There always is an incentive.
We love to say thank you, folks.
So today, giving a $10 a month gift to your favorite public radio station, GBH, and you'll receive an online subscription to The Atlantic.
Oh, that is a great gift.
You've had this experience listening to
thanks.
GBH, like, oh, God, I love this program. Oh, I can't get out of the car. I got to hear the rest of this story. And a lot of people have the same experience reading the incredible long-form journalism from The Atlantic. It's really 2 key news and journalism institutions teaming up to say thank you for giving your support.
That's right. 888-897-9424 is the number to call, or gbhnews.org. We know that you know this, but we come on every once in a while and we say it again. We cannot do what we do without you. You are what powers public media. We just simply cannot do it. We can't do the programming. We can't pay the staff. We cannot make this operation work without your contribution. And the beautiful thing is that you don't have to do it all yourself. Those gifts of $10 a month or $20 a month or $50 a month, they add up. That is what makes this happen. It's in many ways, it is democracy in action, and then we try to reflect democracy back to you. It's a beautiful cycle, and we want you to be a part of it right now at 888-897-9424, or you can always hit the donate button at gbhnews.org.
I want to give some thanks to folks who have already donated during this membership drive. Pamela in Sutton, and Jerry Ann in South Milwaukee, and Pamela in Fairfax. And I also especially want to thank Elizabeth in Nahant. She says, because I need a news source I can trust, I need a news source that values education, intelligence, the arts, culture, and intellectual curiosity. Those are the reasons that she gave to support the Curiosity Desk and to support GBH, which is great to hear because that is exactly the point. So thank you so much, Elizabeth. And when you give today a $10 a month donation on a sustaining membership, you can double down on your curiosity
That's
and
right,
intelligent reporting by also receiving the gift of a subscription to The Atlantic.
888-897-9424 or gbhnews.org. And thanks. This is the Curiosity Desk on GBH 89.7. I'm Edgar B. Herwick III. We're streaming live at youtube.com/GBH News. And with me right now in studio, the one and only senior producer of this show, Aiden Connolly. Hey, Aiden.
Hello, Edgar.
Aiden, have you ever crossed over the Tziperman Bridge?
This feels like a trick. I mean, obviously, I live in Boston. I go in and out of the city often.
I don't know where you go.
Well, I will confirm, yes, today on the record, I have gone over the Tziperman Bridge.
Okay, I assume in a car?
I mean, well...
So have you ever walked across the Tziperman Bridge?
Oh, Jesus, Edgar. Well, this feels... I mean, nobody walks over the bridge. Where are you going to walk? You're going to be in the middle of traffic. You're going to be dodging cars.
That is correct. There is no pedestrian walkway on that bridge. But on this day, May 12th, back in 2002, this is a few months before it opened to traffic.
You tell me they let people walk over?
They let people walk over it.
Okay.
This was on Mother's Day in 2002. It was a rainy day, and they expected about 40,000 people to show up.
40,000 on a rainy day. So they must have only gotten a couple hundred
They got
or something.
200,000 people.
That is crazy. That's like a third of the entire city.
Yeah, 200,000 people. And, of course, the bridge is named in honor of religious and civil rights leader Leonard Tziperman.
Yeah, of course. I mean, for years he was the guy at the New England Anti-Defamation League, right?
And sadly, he died of cancer in 1999 at the age of just 46.
May he rest in peace.
Yeah. Now, among those who walked over the bridge on that Mother's Day were his widow Joyce, their 3 teenage children, and his parents. And Joyce said that day it was an extraordinary day for their family.
Yeah.
Quote, "This is what his life was about. It's such a tribute to him and his life's work."
Edgar.
Yes.
That is a surprisingly poignant fact for this day in history.
Sometimes we do it that way.
Okay, but for now we're going to turn our attention to this day in news. And when we do that, there is only one person that we turn to. That would be Gal Tziperman. I can test the clip ahead
So
of time.
nice, they did it
That would
twice.
be Gal Tziperman-Lotan, who writes the GBH Daily newsletter. Gal, hello.
Hello, double the fanfare. I feel honored. So we're going to start today talking about late night MBTA service.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Let's
as you
go.
know, the World Cup is coming to Foxborough.
Yes,
and at
indeed.
least for the first game, Haiti-Scotland, on
Yep.
June 13th, the MBTA is saying it will run trains as late as 4 a.m. to get people
Very
home.
good. That's an evening game.
Yeah,
so,
it starts at about 9. So our colleague Jeremy Siegel, who covers transportation, he thought, well, is this something the MBTA can do more often? He asked Brian Kane, the executive director of the MBTA's advisory board, and do you want to guess what the answer was?
I'm hoping it was yes, but I feel like it might not have been.
Yeah.
I'm going to guess it was not yes.
Yeah, it was a hard no.
Okay.
Here's what Kane said.
We have tried 24-hour late night service over and over and over again. It has failed every single time. Not because there's not enough ridership, but because it's too expensive.
So if it's any consolation, remember that some buses and trains do run until 2 a.m. on weekends.
Yeah, oh well. So late night buses, it works when it works, I guess. All right, what else is happening, Gal?
So a group of nonprofits that help people who are leaving prisons and jails with re-entry is worried that the new state budget will leave them out. We're talking about 66 organizations that in the past 5 years have gotten a collective roughly $15 million a year to help with things like job training, but also housing and mental health care.
Okay.
And some of them help with like these small but important things that people need when they leave prison, like getting a new ID or like seasonally appropriate clothes.
Yep.
The Healy administration said these organizations could apply for funding that's available for job training programs, but advocates told our colleague Katie Lannon that they're worried the work they do doesn't really line up with those requirements.
All right, we're going to keep an eye out for that as part of GBH's budget reporting. Gal, what's happening outside of the State House?
So let's go over to the South End.
All right.
There's a group of parents trying to buy parts of the Croft School.
yeah.
You might remember Croft as the private school whose founder is suspected of hiding $13 million in debt. Oops. Parents have raised enough money to keep the school going through the end of this academic year, and now some of them are trying to buy Croft's South End assets so they can keep sending their kids there next year and in the future.
So what is the school? I mean, is the school down for selling or?
So far they haven't agreed to it. It looks like they're trying to sell all the assets together, which includes also assets in Jamaica Plain and in Providence.
I see. We'll have to watch that. Gal, you got anything else for us?
Yeah, so along similar lines, alumni of Hampshire College in Northampton are also raising money. You'll remember that college announced that it will be shutting down. It started in the 1970s and has had this mission of non-traditional education. The alumni involved in this Hampshire Next campaign are trying to keep that experiment going.
Oh, interesting. So what are their goals?
Yeah, so they have a few. The bigger ones are raising about $10 million to try and convince the school's trustees not to sell Hampshire's land and buildings to pay off debt, with the idea that maybe they can, keep it going with another school in the future. But if they can't do that, they hope to at least be able to send some money to faculty and staff who are getting laid off.
Okay. Wonderful. That is Gal Tziperman-Lotan. She writes our email newsletter, GBH Daily. If you want to subscribe, of course, it is free. Go to gbh.org/daily.
Aiden, Gal, thank you both.
Thank you so much.
Edgar.
Stay with us. Up next, why the price of fertilizer and the price of oil are so inextricably linked. This is the Curiosity Desk on GBH. Stay with us. (888-897-9424) or gbhnews.org. This is the Curiosity Desk. I am Edgar B. Herwick III, and we're taking just a moment in this next to last day of the spring membership drive to ask you to join us. Join us not just as a listener, but become a supporter. Right now, you can do it with a simple phone call, or you can go online and click a couple of buttons, and boom, it's done. That's what we're asking you to do. Just do your part. $5 a month, $10 a month, $20 a month, whatever works for you works for us. And with me right now in studio with a fun way for us to say thanks to you is GBH's Patty Daniels.
Hey, Edgar. So you just mentioned $10 a month. And at
I did.
that level of support, we're going to send you a pretty awesome thank you gift. It is a online subscription to The Atlantic.
I love that. I mean, that's great.
It is hard to forget The Atlantic becoming the center of the news it reported on earlier this year when a certain editor entered the group chat around a certain defense operation in the Middle East. There is a lot of amazing reporting that The Atlantic does, and they do it in a way that so complements the way that public radio reports the news. So really benefiting from and supporting two integral news institutions with one gift. You can do that all right now. A $10 a month sustaining gift. Give online at gbhnews.org or 888-897-9424.
We know you've heard this messaging before. You heard us talk about this at membership drives and things like that. And maybe you've thought to yourself, you're right. I should probably make a contribution at some point. And, we get it. Life is busy. Something else comes up. You think, I'll do that later, and then you don't do it. Well, here's an idea. It's the next to the last day of the drive. Just do it now. It only takes a couple of minutes. You could do it by phone. You could do it online. We get a little bit of information from you. You tell us how much you want to make a contribution and an amount of. It could be $10 a month. It could be $1,000. Hey, it could be $10,000. We're not going to say no to that either. So whatever works for you works for us. But again, just you want to do it, just do it now. 888-897-9424 or gbhnews.org.
And when you give $10 a month, we'll be glad to send you a thank you gift of an online subscription to The Atlantic. It's two great journalism institutions that you are supporting and benefiting from on this penultimate day of the membership drive.
Nice job. You got
Thanks penultimate.
So much. See, that's the kind of stuff you get from the Curiosity Desk. 888-897-9424 or gbhnews.org. And thanks.
Here we go.
That's Tuesday. Now we're going to have two breaks. You are listening to the Curiosity Desk on GBH 89.7. I'm Edgar B. Herwick III. We're streaming live at youtube.com/GBH News. Well, by now we are all very familiar with how the war in Iran is impacting gas and oil prices. We've talked before on the show about the Strait of Hormuz and why the Middle East as a region is a vital source of world energy, but also being impacted the cost fertilizer, the nitrogen and phosphorus sustaining local industrial and small farm agriculture. Today's question, what on earth does plant food have to do with the conflict in the Middle East? Well, here to help us with that, we are joined now by Sean Cash, an agricultural and food economist at Tufts University's Friedman School of Nutrition Science and Policy and the Bergstrom Foundation Professor in Global Nutrition. Sean Cash, welcome to the Curiosity Desk.
Thanks for having me here, Edgar.
Before we get into the details of this, I want to talk a little bit about fertilizer in general, in so much as I feel like we live in a time where there's all kinds of stories and headlines that are like the one thing nobody thinks about that makes the world tick, But I think in the case of fertilizer, I think this is one where legitimately I don't know that people really understand how fertilizer, industrial fertilizer in particular, truly changed the game for the earth.
Some people would claim that the Haber-Bosch process, which allowed us to develop synthetic nitrogen fertilizers, is probably the biggest technological innovation of the last 200 years.
Wow.
Because nitrogen is often the limiting factor for fertilizing plants. It's not the only fertilizer we care about, but it's 60% of the fertilizer we use around the world. And we didn't have any way of really manufacturing that. We would apply, before this Haber-Bosch process was developed in the early 20th century, we would apply bat guano, animal manure to fields. And it was a very limited resource. So it really did change our ability to produce food. And many analysts claim that the world population very quickly reflected that increased food production capacity.
That's wild. All right, so let's talk about what goes into the price of fertilizer and or why it is that the cost of fertilizer is going up so much right now. It seems like due almost completely to what is happening in the Middle East. So sort of connect those dots for us a little bit.
The whole process of manufacturing synthetic fertilizers, urea, ammonium nitrate, it's energy intensive. First and foremost, natural gas is the feedstock that provides the hydrogen to which nitrogen fixes, so that we can have these synthetic fertilizers.
So you need natural gas to get the nitrogen.
It's an important part of how we make the nitrogen accessible to plants. And then the way this all works is you need a lot of heat and a lot of pressure. That requires a lot of energy. So really, when we're talking about fertilizer, we are talking about energy.
So is energy the chief issue here? Or, I mean, we did a segment, a couple of weeks ago about, the price of helium going up. And in that case, it was largely because it is in the Middle East where you get the helium, right? Like that is like the spot where it's literally able to be pulled up from the ground. So in this case, is it that most of the fertilizer is being made in the Middle East and therefore it is stuck with all this other stuff in the Strait of Hormuz? Or is it something else?
It's both. So we produce a lot of fertilizer in the United States. In Canada, we produce a lot of fertilizer as well. But we've seen a big increase in fertilizer production in the Middle East, particularly in Qatar, which is home to the largest single size facility in the world producing nitrogen fertilizers. Saudi Arabia produces a lot of fertilizer. In part, it's because that's where the energy is, and it's easier to ship finished fertilizer than it is to ship liquefied natural gas. So it made sense to build up that capacity.
So you just do it rather than getting the natural gas, you do that part there and then ship that.
And then ship that. So we've seen this increase in capacity even over the last decade. That's been cut off. So those boats aren't getting through. So that's an important source of the world's fertilizer. Even the fertilizer we produce here in the United States, we still need all that energy. We still need the natural gas as the feedstock, and the price is going up. These are commodities, and there's basically one world price for energy commodities as well as for fertilizer. So it's not a matter of do we produce enough in the United States or in North America. We do import a lot, but what we're producing here is also getting more expensive.
I see. But so there is no solution by which it's just like, well, let's just like ramp up production in Canada and in the U.S. And, even though that's still going to be a little bit more expensive, problem solved.
Well, so you and I are talking about this now. We know it's an issue. Why haven't you and I gone out and built a fertilizer factory? Because it's hard. These are.
Why is it hard? I mean, just as you point out, it's just because it's just like a hugely like energy consuming thing to do?
Yeah, these are facilities that need to be done at scale. Haber and Bosch, the folks who invented the process that allowed us to have this, they won the Nobel Prize for doing this. So the science wasn't easy. We know how to do this now, but just increasing capacity. It's not a matter of turning up the volume switch on an existing factory. So as severe as the price increases that we've seen have been over the last few months, when we see short-term sudden shocks, companies are not going to invest millions and hundreds of millions of dollars into creating infrastructure for something that could be resolved in 6 months to a year.
Gotcha. You listen to The Curiosity Desk. We're talking with Tufts agricultural and food economist Sean Cash about the price of fertilizer. This is one of those things where it's sort of. Do you feel like, in general, when it comes, something like fertilizer, to me, it puts really in focus the interconnected nature of the global economy. In a way of there, all of these products that we don't even think about, these things that are like underpinning all of this economic activity everywhere, and like just how interconnected it is. When I hear you talking about, just the way we make fertilizer and how we get it and where it goes, it really does shine a light on that interconnectedness. Yes?
Absolutely. I mean, a lot of folks think, we're producing food here, we're producing fertilizer, we produce a lot of energy, but we trade these things, and these things are substitutes for one another. If oil prices go up, we need to find other ways of fueling vehicles, heating our homes, etc. So the price of all energy sources goes up. It's not just the things we're getting from one place where it's there's temporarily less of that. And we can't understate the importance of fertilizer to farmers. It's, depending on what you're growing, it can be 40% or more of your input costs. It's a major expense for farmers. For some, it's the major expense. And we've seen that go up 50%, the cost of that in the last few months.
50%?
Yeah, from about $455 a ton to $700 a ton.
We're going to talk a little bit more about that in a second. I know you're not a scientist, but I do want to ask the question of, we talk about, fertilizer, and I get that it's energy intensive to make it. But if it's the nitrogen that we need, I sort of go back to my kind of grade school, or maybe it's high school chemistry or whatever. I'm like, isn't the air like mostly nitrogen? Like what's the problem here? It's everywhere, isn't it?
It's everywhere, but plants can't get at it, right? So so the nitrogen in the air is basically very stable.
Yeah.
So what you need to fertilize plants is nitrogen that's available to them. And most plants can't do that at all, or can only do it in limited ways. So, so either we're applying manure, compost, guano, or we're applying synthetic fertilizers. For most of this, it is nitrogen that is the main limitation. Nitrogen depletes from the soil, so you need to add nitrogen in somehow, and fertilizer is the primary way we do this, particularly so that farms can keep using the same plots of land year after year. So, it's a major expense, it's a limiting factor, and it really does increase yields. So when we see these prices go up, what's a farmer to do? You can either use less of it, in which case your yields are going to go down because it's a limiting factor, or you can pay more for it, and then you have to cover those costs. And this is happening at the same time that basically every input cost for every farmer has gone up.
So let's talk a little bit then. As you mentioned, the cost of fertilizer has gone up 50%. There are other costs that are on the rise. So what does this mean for farmers? How are farmers dealing with this? And is the impact equal across, say, everything from large scale industrial farms to smaller family owned farms? Is it hitting everybody equally?
It's definitely not hitting folks equally for any number of reasons. So where you are and what you grow, that's going to impact your mix of inputs, how many options you have for growing something different. So some farmers, when we're talking about a spike in nitrogen fertilizer prices, might switch more to soybeans, where soybeans have a little more resilience. So
you change your crop.
And you can change your crop, but not everyone can do that. There's big differences in the number of farmers who locked in early to fertilizer prices before the season started versus not.
One can do that. You can sort of, purchase yours in advance for whatever the price is.
Or at least lock in several months in advance. So roughly 2/3 of the farmers in the Midwest, from some of the information I've seen, locked in this year early on. That's a lot of these commodity, think soy, corn, wheat growing. In the West, that's only about 30% locked in early. And that's where a lot of our produce comes from. And we're going to be seeing these price impacts on the shelves for us in the coming months because these things are lagged. So also thinking about how farmers are dealing with some of this, what else has been hitting them in terms of prices. So I mentioned soybean might be something that you would look to switch to because you get a little leeway with your nitrogen. But soybean prices have taken a hit because China wouldn't buy soybeans from us last year because of our trade war.
And then, there's the additional factor, which is one of the same things that is driving up the cost of the fertilizer, which is that you need fuel to get things hot to make it happen. You also need fuel to run your tractors and do any number of things on these farms, again, in particular at larger farms. And that's also, I would imagine, having a huge impact.
Yeah, when you and I are looking to fill up our cars, we're thinking about gas prices, but farmers and farms run on diesel, and diesel prices have gone up even more. So that's about a 40% increase in the last few months, starting from getting your plants in the ground and applying that fertilizer, your tractors, your other farm equipment that's primarily running on diesel. Come to the end of the season, you harvest, and those things are being shipped elsewhere. And those go primarily on trucks in the United States, and that runs on diesel. So the price of diesel is a major part of the price of food. I mean, 10% of the food dollar is driven by energy costs, and we've seen these massive upticks in price over the last few months. And they're going to, even if everything goes well on the geopolitical stage, it's going to take many months for these things to iron out.
I wonder about, there are any number of people for various reasons, whether it be, somebody who's concerned about climate change or whether it's somebody who's concerned in just like the sustainability economically of having a large food system the way we do. I mean, there's lots of people out there who would say like, well, this is an example of like we have sort of overstretched ourselves in the way we live our lives, the way we make our food. There are huge problems in this. And, here's an example of why this is a problem. I mean, does this move the needle on behavior at all? Or as you point out, is this something that people still look at? They say this is temporary. And then 6 months down the line, a year down the line, we're just going to go back to doing it this way. Because why? Because it's the best way to do it. It's the easiest way to do it.
I'm a card-carrying economist, so I got to believe that prices help move the needle on behavior change. But short-term shocks, and the whole definition of the short term to an economist is that time period in which we can't make big changes in the way we live or the way we make things.
Okay.
And so short-term shocks don't help us. We just see the shortages and the increase in prices. When I go and fill up my gas tank for my car at the pump, and last time it was $65, and normally, I mentally I'm thinking about the price a few months ago, and I kind of curse to myself, and then I remind myself, wait a second, you like high fuel prices because it's going to get us to switch away from these things and move towards more sustainable things. But sudden changes doesn't help us make those changes. It doesn't allow for planning horizons, whether you're talking about creating new industrial facilities, changing the way we drive, thinking about gas stations transitioning to more and more electrical charging or other types of power sources. None of that happens when you're looking at price jumps in a space of days and weeks. So do I want to see price changes as part of sustainable transitions? Absolutely. But this doesn't get us there.
Yeah.
This just leaves us reeling and leaves us all having a much harder time making ends meet in the short term.
All right. Well, this conversation has felt fairly bleak. Is there any good news, or is there anything here for me to not be depressed about?
The whole nature of farming is you are dealing with one shock or another all the time.
Yeah.
So farmers are resilient, and I don't mean that as a personality statement, although I think many are, but there is some resilience there. If this lasts for longer, we will see some of those transitions that you were talking about. If it goes away faster, unfortunately, the long tail will still be long because, what you plant now or what you planted in the last month, like that's going to impact the yields and the prices of what we see. So a lot of it is bleak, but we've seen some of this before. But I don't see a substitute for the way we use fertilizers producing food at scale right now. You either intensify what you get from the land or you extensify and use more land. And, the reason why Haber and Bosch won a Nobel Prize 100 years ago was because for the first time in human history, we were really making headway on producing more food without just planting more land.
All right. We've been speaking with Sean Cash, an agricultural and food economist at Tufts University's Friedman School of Nutrition and Science Policy and the Bergstrom Professor
in global nutrition. Sean, thank you so much for being with us on the Curiosity Desk.
Thanks for having me here. This was fun.
And that about does it for us for now. The Curiosity Desk is produced by Aidan Connolly, Rachel Armani, Olivia Corcio, Hannah Loss, and Nicole Garcia. Patty Daniels and Jamie Bologna are our Haber-Bosch process. Our engineers, John LaClaw Parker. Special thanks to David Goodman and Patrick Lally. We will be right back here in 23 short hours on GBH. If you can't wait that long, check out our podcast. You can get that anywhere you get your podcasts. Until next time, I'm Edgar B. Herwick III. Stay curious out there.
This is the GBH Spring Membership Drive, and it ends tomorrow. Your contribution right now is essential to keep programs just like the Curiosity Desk and all our programs that you value on the air and available to all. If you can give, please do so by giving online at gbhnews.org or by calling us 888-897-9424. A good afternoon to you. I'm Mark Cohen. I'm joined today by Melissa Jones.
We're very excited to offer to you a brand new thank you gift. When you give $10 a month to GBH right now, we have a subscription to The Atlantic. It's an annual digital subscription. It gets you all the access to the work of dozens of the most interesting voices in America. They do the deep reporting on the affairs that are happening and affecting all of us daily right now. It is a must read. If you haven't caught it, I urge you to do so. And the best way to do that is to give $10 a month right now. This offer goes away at 7 o'clock tonight. gbhnews.org or 888-897-9424.
And of course, we are tracking our goal this hour. We're down to 5 contributions in about the next 5 minutes. GBH and NPR, along with the folks here producing shows like the Curiosity Desk, the Culture Show, and so much more, we play a vital role in delivering trustworthy news and entertainment that you can depend on. And by giving now, you help ensure that quality journalism, among other things, it'll prevail over disinformation. So please make your contribution now. 5 contributions we're looking for in the next 5 minutes. The giving just takes a couple of minutes of your time. Look for the donate button over at gbhnews.org or call us at 888-897-9424.
GBH's most important source of funding is listener contributions, and your donation is more important than ever as we continue to build a future without federal funding. We understand not everyone can give right now, but if you have the means, please make a contribution. Your support will help us maintain our service to you at a time when it is needed the most and ensure that fact-based journalism is available to everyone, whether they can afford to give or not. Won't you please join in right now with your support to keep all of this great stuff going for you? gbhnews.org or 888-897-9424.
And of course, the best way to support GBH right now is by becoming a sustaining member. You choose a monthly amount to give. Maybe that's $5, $10, maybe $15 a month or more, whatever it is. It's automatically deducted from your bank account or your credit card. And of course, that monthly contribution, that adds up to significant support as we continue to replace our lost federal funding and fund the future of GBH. So please take a couple of minutes if you can. Join us now, 888-897-9424, or go online at gbhnews.org.
Tomorrow is the last day of the GBH membership drive. Your contribution now is essential. You probably had good intentions of giving earlier, but other things kept you from it. Well, how about doing it right now? We're spending this time together. It's easy to do, and it's the only way to keep NPR and GBH news and programs you value and trust on the air. All gifts in any size are welcome, but we strongly encourage you to think about the $10 a month to pick up that Atlantic subscription. gbhnews.org or 888-897-9424.
Want to send a couple of thanks out today. Nancy up in Dover, thank you so much. John in Winthrop, thank you. We also heard from Michael in Marshfield writing to us saying now more than ever having access to factual news is critical to the survival of a functioning democracy. Right on, Michael. Thank you so much for your contribution. Thank you especially for those kind words. We are hoping you will do what Michael, Nancy, and John have done. Join the others who have cast their vote for GBH. Show your support right now in any amount. The phones are open at 888-897-9424 or go online at gbhnews.org.
Thanks to those folks and those of you who have called. We're down to just 3 more contributions that we need in the next couple of minutes to make the goal for this hour and keep us on track for this membership drive that ends tomorrow. Won't you please get on the phone right now at 888-897-9424 or give online at gbhnews.org.
And it's so easy to give. We make it easy to give anytime. It just takes a couple of minutes of your time. We need your name, some contact information, that amount you'd like to give, and how you'd like to pay. 888-897-9424, gbhnews.org.
And remember, your contribution right now keeps the free press free and available to all, and you can pick up that Atlantic subscription with just $10 a month right now. This offer goes away at 7 o'clock tonight. If it's something that you've been interested in dipping your toes into, it's a great source of the deep dives of journalism that you're looking for. You can make it happen right now. 888-897-9424 or gbhnews.org.
What's trending? What's interesting? What's going on around town? We're talking all things arts and culture on The Culture Show, next on GBH 89.7.